One Piece Treasure Box System, Chapter 1181-1200. Chapter 1181 _ crosses the robbery. Baiji's figure slowly descended from the formation. When she saw Roha on the ground, her face was full of joy. She had not seen it for such a long time, and there was no news at all. She was worried, even eating meat is tasteless. Roha saw the formation in the sky, and he secretly said in his heart, "Mad." He almost wanted to pat his hands on the ground just now, making a gesture like a psychic. If you really want to do that, it will be a big shame. If you press it on the ground, the formation will appear in the sky. No matter how you look at it, it looks like a big oolong. The formation in the sky seemed to have a very strong binding force. Although Baiji wanted to move, she couldn't move at all. She could only wait for the formation to slowly dissipate. On one side, the long-lived fox King Huangqi and the jade-faced fox Huyuer touched the ground, kneeling respectfully, not daring to overstep at all. Although Baiji's current realm is far inferior to that of the long-lived Fox King, the pressure from his blood makes the long-lived Fox King fight with both sides, and tears slowly accumulate in his old eyes. The nine-tailed celestial fox is the highest existence in Qingqiu Mountain. Every generation of the nine-tailed celestial fox, in the hearts of all the Fox clan, is like a saint, and Ling Ran is inviolable. My lord, the slave family misses you so much." As soon as the binding force of the formation disappeared, Baiji turned into a human figure and plunged directly into Roha's arms. "Well, I miss you too." Roha smiled and held Baiji in his arms. Before he could say anything more, Tiandao had already reacted to Baiji's appearance, and the thunder clouds slowly began to gather. At the time of Naruto World, Baiji was already a powerhouse of the Six Paths, and after practicing that Qingqiu secret record, her strength increased even more. "Baiji, you can feel the information in your mind first, and then talk about it after this thunderstorm." Roha frowned when he saw Tiandao's rapid response, and took out a sumer bag from the system warehouse and handed it to Baiji. As soon as he pointed at Baiji's eyebrows, Roha passed on all the information about transcending the calamity and how to use the magic weapon in the sumeru bag. Baiji Vivi was stunned for a moment, feeling the miscellaneous information in his mind, and reacted in a moment, knowing that the matter was serious. After nodding to Roha, he waved his hand and began to try to put the primordial spirit mark on the Nair bottle. "Don't you need money for the 5 elements tribulation? Isn't it very rare? How come it is like the most common thunder calamity?" Roha stepped back and watched the 5 elements of divine thunder begin to condense in the sky, helplessly rolled his eyes. "When I heard Aokenshin say that this 5-element catastrophe should be a rare thunder catastrophe, every cultivator who has gone through the 5-element catastrophe is invincible in the same realm, and such a cultivator, within the 3 realms, is rare for 1,000 years. Don't talk about 1,000 years now. How many years has Roha been here? He came out of the 5 elements catastrophe, and then Aokenshin was also the 5 elements catastrophe. Now that Baiji is here, is it still the 5 elements catastrophe?" Complaining in his heart, Roha looked at Baiji in an orderly manner, preparing all kinds of things needed for the calamity, with a smile on his face. Although he couldn't practice the secret record of Qingqiu, he had read some of them. It was self-evident that it could be used as the supreme exercise for the 9-tailed celestial fox in Qingqiu Mountain. That is a complete practice method that can reach the Deluo Jingxian directly. If there is a chance, it can even reach the level of the Hunyuan Deluo Jingxian like Subhuti. There is actually a catastrophe. Did your lord come to the legendary world? Baiji murmured in her heart, but her subordinates were not slow at all. Take out the high-grade magic weapon Nale bottle one by one from the sumeru bag, put the Yuenshin mark on it, and then take out some high-grade magic weapons for disaster prevention, which are also marked with the Yuenshin mark. The things in this sumeru bag were originally prepared by Roha for that Chai Miaoling. Although that girl was not as talented as Aokun who became Wapa, but because of the identity of the last person after the death of Adore, there were a lot of karma on her body. The difficulty of her wanting to become an immortal, because of this complicated cause and effect, will also increase a lot accordingly, at least the 3 or 9 tribulations. Roja is more prepared in order to be prepared. At this time, although dealing with the catastrophe of the 5 elements, it cannot be said that it is foolproof, but there are many magical powers in the secret record of Qingqiu, and Roja believes that Baiji has no problems. Pieces of high-grade magic weapons were taken out of the Zumi bag, and the Wanzai Fox King, who was kneeling respectfully beside him, quietly raised his head and glanced at Baiji, who was preparing, and swallowed dryly. This kind of behavior that only bears the imprint of the primordial spirit undoubtedly proves that these high-grade magic weapons are only used to prevent disasters. For him, the land-rich owner, the impact is really too big. Even if it is the collection of Jinxian monks for 10,000 years, it is not necessarily able to exchange for so many high-grade magic weapons. You must know that in the realm of Jinxian, the mainstream magic weapons are still high-grade magic weapons. It's like that kind of acquired spiritual treasure, not someone who has a big chance, a big backstage, and absolutely can't have it. Every man is innocent and guilty. If a loose cultivator without any backstage has the acquired spiritual treasure, then he will face it's a catastrophe. The jade-faced fox on the side can only see the treasures that were taken out, with a little envy in his eyes. There is no doubt about the level of Luo Ya's treasure refining, and because he has experienced 2 worlds, he has played countless online games in his previous life. The appearance of each magic weapon is quite dazzling. Baiji, it's coming. Roja has been paying attention to the changes in the thunder in the sky. With the improvement of his strength, he can already clearly feel when the thunder calamity will come. Yeah, Baiji nodded solemnly, looked up at the thunder in the sky. The 9 tails behind her swayed endlessly, flashing 9 completely different colors. Gold, wood, water, fire, earth, wind, thunder, snow, magic, representing the luster of the 9 powers, making Roja Duvivi dizzy, passing the rest of the secret record of Qingqiu, the current Baiji, and the original. The strength is completely incomparable. Click. A thunderbolt came down in response, and Baiji's original solemn expression Vivi revealed a hint of doubt. Among the 9 tails, the tail representing Lei danced instantly, turning into 100 feet in size. Click, click. One after another, the Jengjin Divine Thunder fell, and Baiji didn't even want to use the Nalei bottle and all kinds of magic weapons around her, and she destroyed all of them with the waving of her tail. Click. The 9th Jengjin Divine Thunder fell, and Baiji Vivi showed a dignified expression. The 9 tails behind him moved in unison, transforming into the body in an instant. Chapter 1182-Successful Robbery. Just kidding. Roja's cheeks twitched, looking at 9 consecutive thunders, without causing any harm to Baiji. Countless alpacas flew past in his heart. Thinking about how hard it was to cross the robbery by yourself, it was like a snake shedding its skin, and it was chopped into coke several times. Comparing with Baiji's current ease and freehand brushwork, Roja only feels that he seems to have lived to a dog with his age. Can you be a little more relaxed? This is a 5-element catastrophe. Countless monks in the 3 realms fear the 5 elements catastrophe. Why is this thunder and lightning the same as yours, sir? Do you not like slaves, so you use thunder and lightning to hack slaves? While Roja was in a trance, Baiji's voice of grievance came slowly, and the voice was full of wronged. If it weren't for Roja's Zhou Tianxingxing pupils, he would be able to see the naughty smirk in Baiji's eyes across the distance. Am I so busy? Concentrate on crossing the calamity, otherwise I'll see how I clean up you. Roja said angrily, raised his palm, full of threats. Long live Fox King Huangqi and Jade-Faced Fox, who were still kneeling on the ground, had bitter expressions on their faces. If they spoke to the 9-tailed celestial fox in such a tone, it was not a concubine, but a maid. The dignified 9-tailed celestial fox is a concubine. What is the background of this fellow Taoist Luo? Long live Fox King Huangqi sighed in his heart, glanced at his daughter, and compared with the proud 9-tailed celestial fox, my heart is full of grief. He was originally a 7-tailed yellow fox. In Qingqiu Mountain, he was already considered to be a bloodline of the upper class. If he found a family with 7 tails, his descendants might be able to become 8-tailed. Even if it is to find a 5-tailed or 6-tailed kin, it is the worst, and the descendants are the same as him, it is 7 tails. After leaving Qingqiu Mountain, where in the world can you find that kind of pure-blooded fox clan? At most they are only 3-tailed red foxes. His deceased wife is already the purest bloodline among the 3-tailed red foxes, and the descendants of the 2 are only 5-tailed foxes. He shook his head with a wry smile in his heart. Seeing that Lei Jia couldn't hurt the 9-tailed heavenly fox, he respectfully knelt down and waited for him to pass the tribulation mountain. Long live the Fox King did not dare to be greedy about his return to the clan. After all, the crime he committed at the beginning was only expelled from Qingqiu Mountain, which was already a blessing from the ancestors. My lord hates it. Baiji wrinkled her little nose, and muttered indignantly at Roha's incoordination, but she didn't dare to be cute anymore. Back then, she had been threatened like this once, and she still never repented. After that, she was pressed to the ground by Roha and beat her ass all afternoon. Thinking about it till now, Baiji still felt a little pain. After that time, she hadn't been on the ground for several days. The most important thing was that Roha not only hit, but also used a little special lightning, making Baiji painful and happy. The thunder in the sky brewed for a while, and then Yimushinlei fell from the sky. Baiji raised his tail representing the wood attribute and resisted it in the same way. The 9 thunder tribulations were also easily overcome by him. After that, the Kui Shui Yinlei caused a little trouble for Baiji. After all, the divine thunder that could hurt people's souls, many methods could not be used. Bingwo Shinlei and Wutu Shinlei, like the previous Zhengjin Shinlei, seemed to just come and go, until the final Great 5 Elements Extermination Shinlei. Baiji's expression became more and more solemn. Sir, these things should be thrown away from the slave family. Baiji gestured at the various magic weapons in her hands, and Baiji's eyes were filled with reluctance. It was the first time she had seen so many magic weapons. In the Naruto world before, Roha also showed her a stirring heart bell and gathering wealth gluttony head, and by comparison, she could feel that these magic weapons are obviously more powerful. Throw it, take it out and use it for your robbery, and then make a few good ones for you. Roha rolled his eyes and said helplessly to Baiji. The Lord is the best for the slave family. Baiji said with a smile, looking up at the thunderbolt falling from the sky, waving her hand and throwing out 3 high-grade magic weapons, which exploded directly in midair. Bang, bang, bang. The huge roar caused a toothache to the long-lived Fox King. He only had 2 high-grade magic weapons in his hand. One was a blue eyeball that could protect his body, and the other was a joyride claw, which was made by someone at a great cost. This wave of hands is the sound of 3 high-grade magic weapons exploding. To him, it is like dying. This kind of prodigal behavior also makes him more affirmative of Roha's extraordinary. Roha is also in pain. This is compared to the extravagance and waste when Ao Kunshin was in the calamity before, otherwise he would have to kneel on the ground with his heart. After several lootings, he obtained the spiritual material, and now he has consumed most of it. Although he can easily refine high-grade magic weapons, it is difficult for a clever woman to cook without rice. You must know that the great King White Carp, who has been in trouble for thousands of years, the blood transformation sect and corpse refining sect who established the 10,000 years, and the Prince of South Blue Dragon Palace, the sum of the spiritual materials is not a small amount. Ordinary monks, I am afraid that they have a very poor life, and they will not be able to collect 12 of the 12 that he robbed in a short period of time. Even Roha has begun to think about whether to quietly rob a few Taoist sects in Nanshanbujo. Otherwise, where would the spiritual materials allow him to master the proficiency of the treasure refining and alchemy skills, both of which are big money-burning skills? Click. The last great 5 elements extermination divine thunder fell. Baiji thought for a while, then threw all the remaining 6 top-grade magic weapons out. Seeing the thunderbolt in the sky, she turned into a human figure, clapped her hands, and put away Nale on the ground. Bottle. Sir, the slave family misses you so much. Stand still and wait for the gift of heaven. Roja is really helpless to Baiji, because the time is tight. The information just transmitted only contains what is needed for transcending the calamity, but it does not say that there will be a gift from heaven after this. Hearing this, Baiji obediently stood on the spot with an unhappy expression, pinching her jade fingers, and pouting her small mouth. Bang! The 6 high-grade magic weapons exploded themselves, causing the heart of the King Long Live Fox to start throbbing, and he cursed the wicked rich lord deeply, but his expression was even more respectful. Swish! It didn't take long for the thunder to dissipate, and a pink beam of light fell from the sky. Since the last incident with Alkunchin, Roja has checked all kinds of classics. He also basically fully understands the characteristics and differences of the special immortal powers gifted by various heavenly ways. Chapter 1183_Accomplice Acting. Pink immortal power, different from golden immortal power, can purify immortal power and prevent the invasion of inner demons, until golden immortal has no barriers at all. It is also different from the silver-white immortal power, which can purify the bloodline and continuously improve the purity of the bloodline. This immortal power is an extremely rare immortal power. For hundreds of millions of years, there have been many people who have survived the 5 elements, but this immortal power appeared only a few times. As for the last one, according to the records of the ancient books, who possessed this kind of immortal power was a banshee who had been dead for 10,000 years, but still made people feel like thunder. Tailed demon fox Daji. This kind of immortal power has only one function, to charm all beings. Whether it is male, female, young or old, immortals, Buddhas, or gods, all cannot escape the influence of this immortal power. With the improvement of realm, if Baiji can cultivate to the level of Hunyuan Deluo Jinxian, I am afraid that saints will be affected by it. The bull is so big, why do I feel more and more that these girls are the protagonists? Roja muttered to himself, compared his golden immortal power, and suddenly felt that he was really scum. Sir, can the slave family move? Baiji felt the immortal energy in her body, and under the assimilation of the pink immortal energy, she began to change gradually. She didn't know why, but she temporarily put it behind her head with a look of grievance. Looking at Roja. Compared with improving her own strength, Baiji prefers to travel around the world with Roja, eat delicious food from all over the world, enjoy the sun and the beach, swim in leisure time, and step on people without anything to do. As for stepping on people, Roja is determined not to agree. How can a peace-loving young man like him step on people when he has nothing to do? He came to the world of Journey to the West, and he was full of calculations. He only stepped on less than 10,000 people, and there were more than 10,000 goblins. You. Roja shook his head speechlessly, flew to Baiji's side, and pointed his finger at Baiji's eyebrows again. However, he passed on all the knowledge that he needed in this world, and the matter of how to deal with the long-lived fox King Huangqi and the jade-faced fox Huyuer was put at the forefront. Baiji practiced the secret record of Qingqiu. Her primordial spirit was already powerful, and at this time she became a loose immortal, and before she transformed the immortal power in her body, she was already in the later stage of the loose immortal. If the transformation of immortal power is completed, it is definitely the existence of the pinnacle of loose immortals. Roja is worried that he will not know his senses and will directly break through to the true immortal, which will lead to instability in his realm, but he does not let him start meditating and practicing now. In just a few breaths, Baiji digested the knowledge in her mind, hugged Roja's neck at once, and kissed him on the cheek. From the information just now, she found that she jumped from the status of the blood contract spirit beast to the concubine's room. Although the status of the concubine's room was supposed to be very different from the main room, it was already a leap forward. My lord, my concubine is so happy, so happy, so happy. After letting go of Roja's neck, Baiji turned around in front of him. Her graceful figure, with the charm of upending all beings, was like a silver bell. The laughter seems to make the whole world sing for it. Roja heard that Baiji's self-proclaimed from slave to concubine, and knew that this girl must be thinking nonsense again, but, the 5-clawed white dragon is already in the sun, and he is still afraid of a 9-tailed. Is it a fox? Silly girl. Roja scratched Baiji's charming little nose, with a smile on his face, and led her to the long-lived Fox King Huangqi and the jade-faced fox Huyer, who had been kneeling on the ground for more than an hour. End go. Abandoned disciple Huangqi from Qingqiu Mountain brought his little girl Huyer to visit the saint, and disturbed the saint to come to Guatemala. Huangqi deserves to die. Long live the Fox King. Pressed his forehead to the ground, his limbs were trembling, his old face was full of tension. You have nothing to do with Qingqiushan anymore, but you don't need to give me this big gift. Under Roja's gesture, Baiji put away the charming smile on her face, and walked to Huangqi and Huyer's house with a blank expression. Before. Holy Maiden, although Huangqi was expelled from Qingqiu Mountain, he still cares about Qingqiu Mountain in his heart. After leaving the mountain, he has never done anything that hurts the world. He knows his sins are heavy, and he does not ask himself to return to his hometown in this life. For the sake of the young girl's youth, the girl's net is open to let the girl return to her hometown, even if she is a slave and a maid, she is willing. Long live the Fox King. His eyes were flushed with tears, and he kept kowtowing on the ground. Without the support of a mortal power, he slammed his forehead into pieces of crimson. You should be very clear about your sins. It's not because I'm unreasonable, it's just that I'm just a saint. Baiji shook her head. Her lofty tone, and the attitude of looking down at Huangqi, made Roja nodded secretly. In the big psychic world, there are 8 tails and 7 tails. Baiji faces this Huangqi. Even though the cultivation level is not as good as the other party, she still does not have the slightest nervousness. When she was a child, she scolded the 8-tailed Jasper fox. Turn around. There was a hint of despair in Huangqi's eyes. Looking at Huyer, who was respectful and did not dare to look up, the old tears on her face seemed to flow into her heart, and she couldn't regret what happened back then. In Qingqiu Mountain, the 9-tailed celestial fox of each generation has an exceptionally noble status, but on it, there is still the existence of the previous 9-tailed celestial fox, the ancestor of the Fox clan. Baiji's words did not arouse him in the slightest. Suspect. Holy Maiden. Huangqi was rewarded by Daxian Luo, and received a 10,000-year-old vermilion fruit. Now there are only 800 years of life left. The little girl is young. I ask the saint to show Huangqi a clear path. I ask the saint to have mercy. I beg the saints to have mercy. Huangqi's voice was extremely sad, and even Huyer, who was on the side, burst into tears, and the father and daughter kowtowed, begging Baiji. Hey. That's all, let me say away. Maybe in the future, your daughter will be able to return to Qingqiu Mountain. It's just your choice whether to listen or not. Baiji pretended to sigh. Opened his mouth to Huangqi on the ground. Holy Maiden, please show me that even if there is only 1 point of confidence, Huangqi will sacrifice his life. Long live Fox King. Huangqi showed a hint of hope in his eyes, and looked at Baiji in front of him respectfully. My fiancé is. Cough cough. Roja coughed and interrupted Baiji's words. This routine, he just passed it all into Baiji's sea of knowledge. This girl's comprehension is quite high, plus this Huangqi is too good. Cooperation is now a matter of course. Although the words were only half a sentence, Baiji's meaning was already very obvious. Long live the Fox King's mind turned and suddenly remembered that the 9-tailed fox was Roja's concubine. The background behind this, friend Luo, that he met by chance is too big to imagine, and even Qingqiu Mountain needs to be flattered. Chapter 1184 Long live the Fox King. Luo Shangxian. Xiaohu was ignorant before and disturbed Shangxian, but please forgive Xiaohu for the sake of Xiaohu's loss and return. Xiaohu is willing to give all his wealth, and only hope that Shangxian can take the little girl by his side. You can also be a slave or a maid. If there is a chance in the future, I just hope that the immortal can help the little girl and let her return to her ancestral home. Quote. Long live the Fox King was awakened by Baiji's half-sentence, turned his head towards Roja's direction, and kept kowtowing. He just looked at Zhuwei Tianyu Beiji just now, thinking about how to get his daughter back to Qingqiu Mountain, but he ignored Roja invisibly. At this time, his mind changed. and he knew what to do. In the eyes of the long-lived Fox King, if he can hand over his daughter to Roja, even if he cannot return to Qingqiu Mountain, he will not let his daughter suffer because of his ability to take the nine-tailed Tianyu as his concubine. There are always endless benefits to be around such a person. Even if you are a slave and a maid, countless people can't ask for good things. Hey, fellow Taoist Huang, don't do this, you and I are gentlemen, I'll help you with this. Roja pretended to be difficult, shook his head and sighed, and bent down to help the long-lived Fox King up. Thank you Luo Shangxian, thank you Luo Shangxian. Long live the Fox King repeatedly expressed his gratitude, but his heart was full of joy. This trip to Hezhou was the most correct decision he made in his fox life. Looking back at the first meeting, Roja always said that he had a relationship with the Fox clan. Now that he wants to come, it is because of Baiji next to him. Hey, I just lost another friend regardless of status. Roja sighed with a look of pity, and the meaning of the words made the king long-live fox even more firm in his thoughts. Shangxian, don't be like this, you and I have different identities. It is a blessing that Xiaohu has cultivated for several generations to meet the immortal. How dare you climb the position of that friend again? I only hope that the little girl will make any mistakes in the future. How much more forgiving can Shangxian be? Quote. Long live the Fox King bent over and bowed, no longer dared to admit the name of this friend, the disparate cultivator and the sect cultivator, the identities of the two are very different. There is a backer behind him. No matter if he is a god or a free immortal, he can enjoy happiness and well-being for hundreds of millions of years. However, the loose cultivation, especially the loose cultivation of a Taoist like him, has been hard work for thousands of years, but in the end it is still empty. Long live Fox King Huangqi saluted Roja while winking at Hu Yuer, the jade-faced fox on the side. Hu Yuer knew that this was an opportunity that his father finally asked for, and respectfully made a blessing. Yuer pays respects to the master and the saint. Although Hu Yuer was pampered, she was not a girl who didn't know anything about it. Forget the ceremony, but I don't like all these red tapes, that's all, you'll know later. Roja raised one hand, shook his head, and said nothing more. Long live the Fox King with a clear mind, knowing that the cause and effect of all this is because of the Haodian Lingon Qingli fruit tree in the back mountain, he said in his mouth to wait for a while, and hurriedly went to the back mountain. Among the three realms, there are only nearly 100 plants of Haodian spirit root, even some big Luo Jinxian, it is not necessarily able to have one plant, whether it is used for entertaining guests or for daily enjoyment, it is a rare good product. Long live the Fox King at this time, for the bright future of his daughter, naturally, without any reluctance, he dug up the root system of 100 meters underground and put it into the sumer bag. After following Roja for the sake of his daughter, when he made a mistake, the other party could take more care. The long-lived Fox King returned to the cave and took out all the treasures of Wanian. During this period, Roja and Baiji have been using Yuanxian to communicate the changes in the Naruto world and his current situation in this journey to the west. Baiji was worried, this world was much stronger than she imagined, and there were countless dangers in it, and the expression on her face was always filled with sorrow. Don't think too much, I will become stronger soon, and when the time comes, I will be able to call you all together. I have a few exercises here, you can take them back and give them to them. Roja Divine Sense Voice Transmission, and from the system warehouse, put several kinds of exercises into a Sumeru precept, together with various books that are beneficial to practice, knowledge of alchemy, and treasure refining, etc. Pirate World and Naruto World are two undeveloped treasure houses. Because there are no immortals, Roja now recalls that there are many treasures of more than 10,000 years. If these spiritual treasures can be collected, if they are only high-grade magic treasures, I don't know how many can be refined, and even acquired spiritual treasures use innate spiritual materials as the main material, and the assistance of those spiritual objects that are more than 10,000 years old is indispensable. My lord, I have to go back so soon. Baiji had a sullen look on her face. After hearing Roja's various arrangements, she knew that she was afraid that her mission had been completed, but she was going back again. Good, I'll go back to the mountain in a short time, and I'll call you later. Roha tapped on Baiji's forehead a little helplessly. He didn't want Baiji to stay for a while, but he came out this time looking for the treasure chest. It is far from time to rest. Oh, Baiji pouted, snuggling in Roha's arms, enjoying a rare moment of tenderness. By the way, what happened to the peach tree in the village? Roha hugged Baiji, but suddenly remembered the peach tree in the Hokage office building. After he left, there was the mudden of the rope tree, the elf fruit of Mebus, the clump fruit of Uyushian, and the peach tree should not slow down in growth rate. The tree has now been transplanted into the house. It is more than 3 meters tall. There are 99 small flower buds on the tree. It should bear fruit soon. Baiji thought about it for a while, and spoke to Roha about the current situation of the peach tree. Knowing that the fruit from that tree was of great use, their group of girls naturally protected it. In the morning, Mebus was born, and in the afternoon, Uyushian was born. In the evening, the rope tree was ripened overnight under the compulsive order of Tsunade. Wooden, clump fruit, elf fruit. Roha nodded, estimating the speed of the descending rope tree and others, but did not let them bring the peach tree. According to their current progress, I am afraid that the speed of the growth of the peach tree is almost the same as that of the enlightened tea tree in the center of the myriad world spiritual garden. I brought myself here, and I don't have another myriad world spiritual garden picture to give birth to it. Let Shangxian wait for a long time. After the long-lived Fox King Huangqi put all his belongings in the Zumi bag, he respectfully handed it to Roha. Chapter 1185-Target Yukon Mountain Jinxia Cave. Roha took the Sumeru bag in his hand, and when he looked into it, he sensed a lot of good things, but, as the saying goes, one must be kind. He kidnapped someone else's daughter to be a maid, and then took the acquired spirit root. After taking the green pear fruit tree that he needed, he waved it into the system warehouse, and Roha handed the Sumeru bag back to the long-lived Fox King again. Shangxian, this. Long live the Fox King with a look of embarrassment, although his behavior was desperate, but for the sake of his daughter, he would rather Roha accept it all. The phrase, eating people's mouth is short and taking people's hands softly, is quite applicable no matter where it is placed. In his heart, the gift he gave is generous. In the future, Roha will care about the gift he gave at the beginning, and he will be more for his daughter. Kind of forgiving. Huang Dao, you don't want to do this. I can only say that I will do my best for the matter of Qingqiu Mountain, but after 500 years, your daughter will come back as an immortal to spend her old age with you. By my side, it is entirely up to her own will. Of course, if you miss you in the middle, you can go to Shiniuhuzhou Monster Slaying Mountain. Roha refused, and promised Huangqi that there was a Taoist enlightenment tea, and it was really not difficult for him to quickly push a Taoist enlightened person to the status of an immortal. Bullying honest people, others can do it, but he can't do it. Although this jade-faced fox follows him, even if it is just a maid, the result will be much better than the original work. It is a great opportunity, but Haolai is someone else's jewel, but Roha is disdainful to do the kind of thing that in turn makes Huangqi lose his family wealth. Shangxian's great kindness and great virtue, Huangqi is unforgettable. Long live the Fox King. Huangqi finally recovered his tears, surged up again, and bowed to Roha. Talk more to your daughter, but I have to continue to travel, so I can't stay here. Roha nodded towards Huangqi and Huyuer, and the two bowed back and went to the side to talk. Farewell to parents. Sir, you are still so kind-hearted. Baiji stood up and said while holding Roha's arm. Good-hearted. Does this word have anything to do with me? Roha scratched the tip of his nose, shook his head and smiled helplessly. He was not a bad person, but if he really wanted to say he was a good person, he was far from bad. He could only say, even if he became an immortal, he was still the original flesh and blood person. The sage of Taiching has cultivated the supreme forgetfulness, which has nothing to do with Roha at all, and has no emotions and desires. In his heart, what is the meaning of living? I'm afraid there is no difference from that puppet. It didn't take long for Huyuer, the jade-faced fox, to come to Roha's body under the reluctant urging of the long-lived Fox King, and respectfully made 1,000 blessings. From then on, her identity was that of a little maid. Baiji, I'll take you back first, and I'll call you when you get back to the mountain. Remember what I said to you. Roha warned a few words, and already started to give orders to the system in his heart. System, repatriate the followers of the world. The huge formation appeared again, covering Baiji's whole body, that mysterious and obscure power. Even if it was the long-lived Fox King, his body was still numb. Don't worry, my lord, my concubine will definitely arrange things properly. Baiji was so obedient, she forcibly endured the reluctance in her heart so as not to worry Roha. Swish. The speed of going back was much faster than when he came, and Baiji's figure disappeared in a flash in the formation. Fellow Taoist Huang, I'm leaving too. Roha turned around and said to the long-lived Fox King. God to send the immortal, you don't have the temper of the little daughter's family again, and you must serve the immortal well. Long live the Fox King bowed and told Hu Yuer again. Yuer understands, please rest assured. Hu Yuer made a blessing to the long-lived Fox King, holding back her tears and showing him a slightly stiff smile. Farewell. Roha was the least likely to see such a farewell scene. Activating the ability of brief with Hu Yuer, appeared tens of thousands of miles away in an instant. After using fast time several times in a row, there was already a distance of nearly 100,000 miles from the Jile mountain, and Roha stopped just now and began to check the system map. Sir, Shu Yuer asks more, where are we going? Hu Yuer left home with a good yearning for the future in her heart, but not only did she want to cultivate herself into the immortal way, she also hoped that she could get some life-extending treasures for my father to enjoy. This girl, after knowing that the long-lived Fox King has only 800 years of life left, has matured a lot in a moment. At least this state of mind is no longer the delicate girl who was guarded by her father under the wings. I went out this time to increase my knowledge, and I don't have a fixed destination. Roha smiled and shook his head, looking at the system map, his eyes lit up. Nanjin Bujo Daomen is at its peak, because Heavenly Court is strangled once every 10 years. Compared with other Bujo, the human race is prosperous here, and the demon race is hidden. In the 100,000 miles, several countries have passed by, but there is no one. What became the monster of the climate? On the system map, the first thing that caught Roha's eyes was a great sect of interpretation, the Jinxia sect, only separated by less than 10,000 miles. Since the last time about the blood sect and the corpse refining sect, Roha has made up for the common sense in these three realms. One of the two golden immortals, the Taoist lineage left by Zhenren Yuding in the mortal world. The real Yuding lived in Jinxia Cave, Yuquan Mountain, and the Taoist lineage he left was directly named Jinxia School. The people of the sect are good at alchemy and treasure refining. There are both Taoists and a lot of Taoists. Yang Jian, the first disciple of the 3 generations of Chanzhou, is the outstanding disciple he taught. And this Jinxia sect, because of Yang Jian's current reputation, has nearly 10,000 disciples. It can be regarded as a famous immortal cultivator in Nanshanbujo. Of course, these are not places that can attract Roha, and what makes him excited, but in this Jinxia faction, there are 3 treasure chests. A Tai treasure box, a fairy treasure box, and a diamond treasure box. Although there is no golden fairy treasure chest, but thinking about the difficulty of obtaining the golden fairy treasure box, Roha's heart is full of egg pain. Long live the Fox King is a special case. He really must kneel. You must know that when King Wanzai was a Taoist, the few times he attacked him really made him sweat. If it wasn't for his quick thinking, he might have already crossed the Nahi Bridge and was ready to reincarnate. Chapter 1186 Yin-Yang Falling Immortal Formation. Let's go, follow me to the Jinxia school, and explain the Taoism left by the 12 Jinxians. I haven't seen it yet. Roha showed a smile on his face and said to Hu Yuer who was beside him. The highest is the treasure chest of Tai level. Relatively speaking, although the gold content is a little less, the safety factor has been improved many times, and it is worth taking such a trip. Yes, the jade-faced fox replied respectfully, but with a worried look on her face. Although she cultivated a Taoist, but because the practice method is only a commonplace, she has a demonic aura. This kind of Taoist sect, the most unpleasant thing to see, is the monks of the monster race, who are always shouting and killing, even if there is a powerful Roha around, and there is no danger of death, it is still inevitable. The contempt of others. Swish. Roha didn't see the expression of the jade-faced fox Huyur, and activated the ability of blink and went directly to nearly 10,000 miles away, mixed the breath a little, and recovered the huge consumption of using blink continuously, and took Huyur towards the ground. Fall. From the sky, the Jinxia school is surrounded by fairy mist, the cranes are chirping, pavilions, temples and palaces are lined up, flowers are in full bloom, and spiritual springs are flowing, but it is a fairy-like atmosphere. It was the first time that Roha saw a large group of nearly 10,000 people. In his eyes, Zhou Tianxing couldn't stop turning, but he saw the scene clearly. The huge practice area, the vast cloud peak, is where many disciples practice skills, and in the thousands of practice rooms, more than 1,000 cultivators meditate and practice. Further down, the medicine garden, the alchemy room, the treasure room, the Zongmen Hall, the executive office, the Shibautai, and the spirit beast garden are really complete. There are many buildings. Roha looked at them carefully. Just know what's the use. Tisk tisk, the big faction is the big faction. Roha said tisk tisk, his eyes turned, but he looked at the defensive formation in front of him. If he read it correctly, this formation should be the yin-yang falling immortal formation that explained the teachings. It can gather the two qi of yin and yang, adjust the balance of the 5 elements in the formation, and has the effect of gathering the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. And since the name of the formation contains the word, falling immortal, naturally it will not be a simple gathering spirit formation. In this falling immortal formation, the first point is that under the realm of golden immortals, it is impossible to use the soaring cloud in it. The technique, even the Taoists escaping supernatural power, is completely useless. Secondly, this falling immortal formation has extremely strong protection and attack power. Although it cannot block the space, it is easy for Jinxian to face this formation. Roha's comprehension of the formation method is becoming more and more profound now, and Zhou Tianxing Xingtong can see through any illusion of formation in the world. After observing this yin-yang falling immortal formation, for a while, he has already understood its principle and arrangement method completely. At first glance, this formation is inconspicuous, but the cycle of yin and yang and the 5 elements is constantly absorbing the aura of heaven and earth in a radius of 10,000 miles. One is to replenish the spiritual energy in the formation, and the other is to store it up for the formation. Consume. That is to say, even a loose immortal can easily control it with the help of the power stored in the formation. This level of formation was definitely not arranged by the head of the Tai Sengxian realm in the Jinxia sect, but it should be one of the 12 golden immortals. In the Battle of Conferred Gods, Chan Zhao, as the attacker, rarely revealed their formations, but this was not to say that their formations were not clever, it was just that they never had the opportunity to use them in the Conferred Gods. As for this yin-yang falling immortal formation, Roha feels that he is definitely not inferior to any of the 10 heavenly lords, 10 absolute formations, and even in a one-on-one comparison, he is slightly better. Of course, not being able to confine the space is a considerable failure. For Roha, the formation that cannot be confined in the space is not even as good as the formations of the blood transformation sect and corpse refining sect. But now with the jade-faced fox Huyur, I used blink to go in and get the treasure chest. No matter how I looked at it, it looked like a thief. Besides, I wasn't prepared to have any conflict with this Jinxia faction, so I would just pay a visit. After thinking about it in his heart, Roha slowly lowered his body from the sky and landed directly in front of the gate of the Jinxia sect, while Huyur behind him saw the 2 cultivators guarding the gate, and his body trembled suddenly. The 2 cultivators on the ground guarding the gate, in the Jinxia sect, although they are not among the first-class elders, but they are already considered high-level cultivators. At this time, before seeing Roha's figure in the air, they felt a strong demonic energy. The exercises that Huyuer cultivated were only Deluahuo, which was different from Sanchingmen, or the authentic Buddhist sect. Even if Delahuo's cultivation art was cultivated to elude a mortal, the demonic energy on his body was still strong and could not be transformed into pure fairy power. The two monks suddenly raised their heads in their hearts and saw the figures of Huyuer and Roha, and felt that Huyuer's breath was only a mirror of refining, and his face was full of stern expressions. "Hey, how dare you dare to violate my Jinxia school's mountain gate? I don't know whether to live or die." The two cultivators in the spirit transformation realm shouted, and after looking at each other, one of them sacrificed a small golden gourd and hit Huyuer Tianling directly. One person sacrificed a small seal but went straight to Roha's face. Huyuer was so frightened that she hid tightly behind Roha. The human race enlightened monk who refined the mirror was already an existence that could easily kill her. Those two magic babies were dazzling, and they were undoubtedly middle-grade magic weapons. "Hey, shout and kill when you come up. Do these two people think they are Da Luo Jinxian?" Roha had an unhappy expression, and he was too lazy to move his hands. This level of magic weapon, the speed is too slow, the power is too small. It is if he stood and let the opponent fight, he might not be able to hurt him. Eyes of Jotian Xingqian Bibi, there was a small space in front of the two magic weapons, and the other end of the space was connected to the feet of the two gods. Call out. The gourd magic treasure and the small seal magic treasure, in the eyes of the two cultivators in the spirit transformation realm, were already reaching their limit, and within a short while, they reached the top of Roha and the jade-faced fox. Vivi even had a smile on their faces, thinking that they could open meat at night, and even use the monster's skin and minions to refine some magic weapons that could be used together. Susu tilde. It's just that before the smiles could bloom, the magic weapon of the two disappeared at the same time. Before their faces turned into consternation, the magic weapon appeared from the feet of the two of them in the next moment, and with all the strength, the ground under their feet was smashed. The stone platform, smashed into a deep depression. Ah! The two cultivators hurriedly dodged, and the flying gravel and soil made the two of them extremely embarrassed, and even one of them had a finger-sized blood hole pierced by the gravel directly in his calf. Chapter 1187 _ What a monster! Ah! Ah! My leg! My leg! Qingwei! Quick, help me stop the bleeding! The cultivator whose calf was pierced by gravel looked at the gurgling blood. His face was full of horror. Even if he was afraid, the appearance of death made Roha even more disdainful. He came up from the world of pirates, and he was injured many times along the way, but his calf was pierced, making it like a dead father. In his opinion, this kind of monk is really a waste. Okay, Qinghong, hold back and don't move. The deity-transforming cultivator named Qingwei was obviously a little flustered. Hemostatic elixir. The external application of internal clothing was originally a simple matter, but under his clumsy hands and feet, he just bled for a long time. It's really useless. Roha shook his head helplessly, with a bit of speechlessness on his face. Even a small injury like this can make his hands and feet panic, and neither of these two is complete. If all the Jinxia sects were filled with this kind of stuff, then it wouldn't be surprising that Buddhism would be able to spread the Dharma in the East in the future. Woo that monster! The two of us are inner disciples of the Jinxia sect. Today, you don't ask why you attack me, and you won't refine you to ashes. Today's affairs will not be over. That Qinghong, the wound on his calf had just stopped the bleeding, and he spoke harshly to Roha, his eyes filled with strong hatred. He has been in this Jinxia school since he was a child. Because of his good talent, he has never suffered any injuries. He has practiced for more than 1,000 years. Now that he has reached this God transformation realm, under the arrangement of the elders, he came here to sharpen his temperament and prepare for the future. Transcending tribulation and becoming an immortal, it is unexpected that this door, which has just been guarded for less than 10 days, has suffered this bloody disaster today. Qinghong, should we sound the alarm first and notify the elders of the division to come? We don't seem to be opponents. Seeing Qinghong, who was talking ruthlessly, Vivi pulled down the other's sleeve, with a smile on his face. Frightened. In the face of Roha, who didn't know the details at all, he recalled the moment just now, and he was so close that he would have to explain it here today. Yes, ring the alarm bell quickly. Qinghong was stunned when he heard Qing Wei's words, but he hurriedly ran towards the alarm bell beside him. Are these two guys growing vegetables in their brains? Roha looked at the two guys speechless, as if they were acting, and really felt that the current ailment was hopeless. This kind of disciple, compared to the well-trained corpse refining sect and the blood transformation sect, is really far behind. This kind of 250 is completely useless. If someone really invades this Jinxia sect, this mountain gate will be destroyed in an instant. To lose. With a wave of immortal power, the 5 elements of magic surged, and the thick earth and stone power directly imprisoned the alarm bell, which was only a low-grade magic weapon. Ouch! 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 The two vigorously urged Zhen Yuan to strike the alarm bell, but the alarm bell only made a muffled sound, and there was no bell ringing that the two imagined. How could this be? Qing Wei's face was a little frightened. She looked back at Roha with a playful smile. Her heart trembled, but she already understood that she might have provoked a terrifying character. Bastard! You must have done it right. An angry expression flashed on Qinghong's face, and he was being teased one after another. This guy, who had always had no brains, gave Roha a fierce look, and limped in. Mountain protection formation, yin and yang falling immortal formation. Enemy attack. Enemy attack. There is a big monster attacking. Although Qinghong's brain is not easy to use, his voice is really loud and loud. With the help of Zhen Yuan's drumming, almost half of the Jinxia faction can hear it. His cries. Qing Wei on the side, after Qinghong shouted, knew that it was too late to say anything, hurriedly ran into the mountain protection formation, and shouted together with Qinghong. In the hearts of the two of them, as long as they enter this mountain protection formation, even if it is Jinxian, it is difficult for them to cross the formation and hurt them. Master, I'm sorry for causing you trouble. Hu Yuer had a somewhat apologetic look on her face. All of this was basically caused by her. If it wasn't for the bright demonic energy, these two brainless people, a cultivator in the spirit transformation realm, would definitely not have such an attitude. Nothing. Roha shook his head, still full of playfulness, looking at the two monks who were shouting in front of him. Among the Jinxia sect, the highest realm was a monk of Tai Sanxian. He really didn't let it go. In the eyes. Although this yin-yang falling immortal array is extremely powerful, it is really useless against him when the space cannot be imprisoned. The unanimous shouts caused the Jinxia sect to explode in an instant, and several disciples who were at a critical juncture in their cultivation gushed blood and woke up from the meditation. The disciples of the Jinxia school, who were like locusts, rushed towards the mountain gate, and the elders of the Jinxia school also came to the mountain gate after hearing the news. Where is the evildoer? Dare to attack my Jinxia sect mountain gate? The Jinxia sect master held a token that looked like a jade, with deep anger on his face. With the roll of this jade-like token, he can not only use the technique of soaring the clouds and driving the fog in this yin-yang falling immortal array, but even his speed has been increased. Roha frowned in displeasure. A sect, the disciples are a little stupid, and understandable. After all, there are so many apprentices, there are always a few who are not enlightened, but the sect master looks like this, it is a bit unreasonable. Even without seeing the situation on the scene clearly, the future person was placed in the position of the enemy, and even a monster, really, if they had a real jade cauldron behind them, would it be amazing. Raising a finger, Roha's fingertips condensed a little thunder of the evil god, and when the thunder light shone, it aimed at the head of the Jinxia sect who was rushing towards the mountain gate. I'll give you a little lesson. As soon as Roha's voice fell, a small hole was torn open in the space in front of him, and the thunder light sprang directly from his fingers and disappeared into the space hole. Click. Another space hole opened directly in front of the head of the Jinxia sect, and the thunder light rushed out of the space hole quickly, and the distance was so close that there was no room for him to dodge at all. Ah! The head of the Jinxia sect screamed. Even a true immortal of Tai might not be able to defend against it, let alone a loose immortal of Tai. The flesh on the chest exploded, and the top-grade magic weapon that protected the body on the body could destroy any magic weapon's power, without the slightest obstacle. The numerous Jinxia sect disciples stopped at their feet, and Qingwei and Qinghong, who kept shouting, were like ducks pinched by their necks, and their voices stopped abruptly. Chapter 1188 _ a bunch of straw bags. Master! Sect Master! The many elders of the Jinxia sect shouted, all of them full of fear and anxiety. Their feet flickered, and they came to the head of the Jinxia sect. The blasted flesh has black marks. Although it looks quite scary, it is actually just a layer of flesh wounds. If Roha wants to kill him, he does not need to use this method at all. Which ferocious beast is this? It would actually use this evil killing thunder. And the method just now, could it be the space supernatural power? The head of the Jinxia sect had a palpitating expression on his face, and turned his hand from the Zumijia. He took out a pill and swallowed it in his stomach. The Jinxia school is good at alchemy and treasure refining. Almost all Taoists can refine some elixir, and they carry countless elixir with them. Roha's 5 senses are sensitive, and he has a strong spiritual sense. The words of the head of the Jinxia sect were clearly heard in his ears, and he helplessly made a blank eye in his heart. He is an authentic human monk, and he was recognized as a monster as soon as he appeared on the stage. Did the eyes of these guys fall out of their crotch? With an impatient look on his face, if Roha hadn't cared about the real Yuding who was meditating and practicing in the Jinxia cave of Yuquan Mountain, he really had the urge to take this Jinxia sect into the pot. Brain. Master, the strength of the enemy is unknown. We still need to use the mountain protection formation. An elder swallowed and proposed to the head of the Jinxia sect. Yeah, the head of the Jinxia sect was struck by the thunder god Punisher, with a solemn expression on his face, and a 12-point vigilance in his heart, but when he heard the words, he sacrificed the jade token in his hand. The jade card is dazzling, and it is the control hub of this formation. It guards the yin-yang falling immortal formation of the Jinxia sect. It is agitated in an instant. Roha frowned, and the mindless gang of Vice Admiral cursed half to death, only to feel that his IQ was lowered by a bunch of idiots. Who told you that I'm a beast? Unhappy in his heart, a golden handprint condensed on Roha's palm. The palm-sized handprint was thrown out, and Roha's voice, together with the handprint, passed into the yin-yang falling immortal array. Call out, snapped. Ah, the bold demon clan is too deceiving. Look at the power of my Jinxia faction, yin-yang Luoxian formation. Even though the head of the Jinxia faction was on guard, he was still sturdy in the face of the invisible space supernatural powers. Really sucked in a big mouth. Bleeding from the corner of the mouth, the head of the Jinxia sect was under the slap, his cheeks flushed, the crown on the top of his head was ripped off, and his hair was disheveled like a madman. The immortal power on the body is surging towards the jade card like no money. In the yin and yang falling immortal array, the yin and yang Tuchi are surging rapidly, and the Taiji map in the sky emits 2 divine lights of yin and yang. Elders, help me take down this monster. The Jinxia sect leader shouted loudly. The elders from the true immortal realm and the second-generation elders from the loose immortal realm poured their immortal power into the body of their sect master. Middle. The exercises they cultivated are the same, and although the immortal powers are slightly different due to their individual constitutions, they can still be borrowed from each other. The surging immortal power surging, combined with the power of all people, they actually forcibly pushed the Jinxia sect head of the Tai Sengxian realm to the position of the late Tai true immortal realm. The Jinxia sect has been established for a long time, and it is located in the prosperous place of the human race. There are nearly 10,000 disciples. Although nearly half of the disciples went down the mountain to experience training at this time, they were not in the sect, but the elders of the scattered immortal realm and the real immortal realm were all gathered. 7 loose immortals, 2 true immortals, plus the realm of the head Tai loose immortals. This lineup is many times stronger than the blood transformation sect and corpse refining sect of Shi Niu Huzhou. Under the shouts of those loose immortal elders, More than 5,000 disciples relied on each other for a moment and formed another formation, obviously for the purpose of self-preservation. The current Roja has long been indistinguishable from Dangru. Watching the actions of a group of elders and disciples of the Jinxia sect, there is no nervousness on his face. Daomen is prosperous, and Heavenly Court will encircle and suppress the demon clan in Nanshanbujo once every 10 years. Although Daomen seems to be very powerful on the surface, but also because of their lack of experience, these people are all strong from outside and in the middle, and they are obviously inexperienced in confrontation. A bunch of scumbags, Roja muttered to himself, looking at the power of so many people, still unable to fully activate the full power of this yin-yang falling immortal array, with a bit of sneer on his face. The evildoer is mad. Look at my great formation. The yin and yang light. The head of the Jinxia sect had an angry look on his face. Roja's words just now, under the encouragement of the immortal force, let all the people of the Jinxia sect listen. Made it clear. This kind of ridicule of Kai Guago almost negated his 10,000 years of achievements. You must know that he only needs to wait for another 500 years. According to the promise of the real person Yuding, he can go to heaven as an immortal, and he does not need to start from the grassroots level. Directly in the position of the righteous god. With the loud shout of the head of the Jinxia sect, the yin and yang taiji map on the top of the formation revolved, and two divine lights, one black and one white, were emitted. Wherever they passed, layers of ripples appeared in the space, as if they could kill people. All creatures. Master, who you are, the jade-faced fox, hid behind Roja, looked at the yin and yang divine light that swept over, and whispered involuntarily, and he was the only one who could rely on him at this time. Don't worry. Roja raised his eyebrows, his face even more disdainful. This bunch of idiots actually use the formation that can kill Jinxian, only to be able to kill the power of Tai True Immortal Peak. It's stupid, can't be any more stupid. At a glance, you can tell that these people are pampered in Nanshanbujo. For 10,000 years, they have never used this formation method at all. The sparseness and laziness of Taoism can be seen from this. The yin-yang divine light is not well known, but when it comes to a magic weapon with the same origin and similar effects, it is well known in the three realms. The yin and yang cylinders of the golden-winged Dapeng eagles contain the divine light of yin and yang. When they see qi, they will be born. Let the enemy have supernatural powers of heaven. As soon as the divine light shines, it will turn into pus and blood in an instant. Ignoring the battle formation, the yin and yang divine light emitted by these people is only less than half of the power of the formation. Roja didn't even look at it. With the ability of the jade-faced fox to directly activate blink, he moved it into the formation. Facing the grim-faced head of the Jinxia sect. You, retreat, rewind. The head of the Jinxia faction saw Roja appear, and he didn't have time to care where the yin and yang divine light hit. He shouted again and again, and hurriedly retreated. Chapter 1189-Neja's Inconceivable Disaster. Bang! The yin and yang divine light flew straight to the sky with unparalleled speed, and exploded at an altitude of tens of thousands of meters. If this yin and yang divine light didn't hit the enemy, according to that corner, it would fly for hundreds of thousands of meters, and it would gradually dissipate. If it exploded at such a close distance, it must have hit someone. And that person, Roja's spiritual thoughts swept away, but he smacked his lips secretly. He was still an old acquaintance, and he didn't know if the head of the Jinxia sect knew who he had hit and would cry directly. You are Jinxian. The head of the Jinxia faction obviously hadn't noticed the sight of the sky, but just stared at Roja in front of him in astonishment. In this yin-yang falling immortal formation, the opponent could actually stand in the sky. You must know that in the yin-yang falling immortal array, if you don't enter the Jinxian, you can't use any means of soaring through the clouds and driving the fog. The fact that the opponent can stand in the air is self-evident to the head of the Jinxia sect. This sudden appearance of an enemy is an enemy far beyond what he can deal with. Golden Immortal Monk. Roja raised his eyebrows, looked back at the head of the Jinxia sect whose complexion had changed drastically, and the elders who were backsliding one after another, full of fear, chuckled noncommittally, and his brows were full of ridicule. What he used, of course, was not the technique of soaring the clouds and driving the fog, but the dance of the sky, which was obtained from the treasure chest system. This technique of dancing to the sky did not act on the outside. This skill can be used at any time. On the other side, the jade-faced fox Huer was brought by Roha with Zhou Tianxingtong's gravitational control. These people don't know Zhou Tianxingtong, and naturally they will think wrong. Roha has no intention of talking nonsense with this bunch of bastards at this time. The righteous master who was just hit by the yin and yang divine light was already outside this formation at this time. Dong Shu, you old bastard, get out of this, young master. Neja's voice came from outside the formation, and the tone was full of anger, which made Roha couldn't help showing a smile. Neja was a Taoist in the early stage of Jingxian. He was hit by that yin and yang divine light unexpectedly. Although he would not suffer much damage, he would inevitably feel a little embarrassed. The lotus robe on his body was slightly damaged, especially the abdomen, and the large black lacquer marks proved that the yin and yang divine light was probably directly hitting his belly. The great god of Santan Haihui. It is the great god of Santan Haihui, we are saved. An elder of the Jingxia faction, when he saw Roha standing in the sky, his face was ashes. At this time, I heard Neja's voice, and hope suddenly emerged in my heart. As the first general of the Heavenly Court Guard Division, Neja was cultivated in the early stage of Jingxian, but because he was the incarnation of Lotus, he was not afraid of injury. There are also many kinds of supernatural powers, even the cultivators of the late Jingxian period, he can fight for a fight. In the face of a terrifying enemy, only such an existence can match. Evil, you're dead. Dong Shu, the head of the Jingxia sect, with a somewhat sinister look on his face, looked at Roha who was playing with him in the applause, and said resentfully. Tisk tisk. Roha smacked his lips. I really don't know how this old bastard's brain grows. Didn't you see Neja tell him to go out and meet him? Dong Shu, the head of the Jingxia school, although a pair of eyes have been trained several times, they are not far from Roha's Zhou Tianxingxing pupil. What does Neja look like? Dong Shu, you old bastard. Are your ears deaf? Do you want me to smash your tortoise shell protecting the mountain before you let me get out of here obediently? Seeing that the formation was closed, Neja didn't answer for a long time. His face became more angry, and the fire-pointed gun in his hand had already used the ground fire contained in the ground fire spar, causing a scorching flame. The old Taoist Dongshu was shocked when he heard the words, and while guarding against Roha's raid, he urged the jade token, set up the clouds, and quickly went in the direction of Neja. The great god of Santan Haihui calms his anger. The great god of Santan Haihui calms his anger. The trail is here, you. As soon as the formation assistant opened a gap, this hole saw the traces of Neja's chest being hit by the yin and yang light. The cold sweat on his face quickly came down. The traces after being hit by the yin and yang divine light are still quite recognizable. The yin and yang grinding can obliterate all kinds of protective magic weapons. You must know that this Neja is not a disciple of Master Yuding, but a disciple of Master Tai. As a third-generation disciple of Chan Zhao, strictly speaking, he is still a member of his uncle's generation. Dong Shu, you'd better explain to me clearly what's going on. Otherwise, even if Uncle Yuding is here today, I won't be able to protect you. Neja's eyes widened angrily. The wheel, urging the surging immortal power of the Jingxian realm, came to Dong Shu's side in an instant. As a Jingxian cultivator, this yin-yang falling immortal formation had little effect on him. The fiery spear in his hand pointed directly at Dong Shu, and Neja was full of murderous aura. The suffocating qi that he had fought in the quartet for thousands of years almost scared Dong Shu. Knees were weak, and he fell to his knees. He received a yin and yang divine light for no reason. He was not a good-natured Neja, but he would not be used to this hole, and the fire-pointed spear was about to touch his throat. The great god of Santan Haihui calms down his anger. The great god of Santan Haihui calms down his anger. The big demon is coming, and there is no other way to do it. The Jingxia faction repels the invading enemy, and Xiaodao will certainly offer the gift of apology for the great god. Although this Dongshu had bad experience in battle, he was very talkative. Balabala explained the cause and effect clearly, and even indicated that he would compensate Nezha for the loss. Nezha was stunned for a moment, thinking about it. It seems that if there is no emergency, there is no need to use this yin-yang falling immortal formation, but in his words, this Jinxia faction seems to be an amazing monster. Big demon, Nezha said suspiciously, with a bit of puzzlement on his face. These big demons in Nanshanbujo are famous for keeping their own feet. Heaven doesn't crusade them. They are also happy to recruit 3 or 5 little demons, hiding in their own cave to enjoy themselves. When did such a nervous monster dare to attack the Taoist line of the real Yuding, one of the 12 golden immortals? You must know that although the real person of Yuding was cut off in the battle of conferring the gods, the top 3 flowers were cut off, but after 10,000 years, they have been repaired long ago. That is the cultivator of the Deluo Jingxian peak, not in Hunyuan, but it is definitely under Hunyuan, the top existence, throwing away the sage master behind him. It is an existence that cannot be provoked. Chapter 1190 _ Please God. Yes, the big demon. The big demon of the absolute Jinxian realm. The head of the Jinxia faction, Dong Shu, nodded and pointed his finger in the direction of Roha. All the elders and disciples of the Jinxia sect were slowly leaning back towards Nezha. Facing a Jinxian-level enemy, they did not have the courage to face them directly. The jade-faced fox Huyuer saw Nezha's appearance, her pupils shrank sharply, and her face was a little frightened. Behind the great god of Santan Haihui is the Tai real person of the peak level of Deluo Jinxian, and behind Tai town, that is indeed true. Standing saint. The danger of saints dare not violate, although in the information that the long-lived fox King Huangqi told the jade-faced fox Huyuer, there should also be an existence behind Roha that is not weaker than the saints. But Huyuer, who has never seen such a character, is full of heart and soul. Trembling. Looking up at Roha's expression cautiously, he saw a smile on his face and a calm expression. Huyuer breathed a sigh of relief in Vivi's heart. Seeing his master's expression, it should be fine. When she came out of the mountain in the first day of the new year, she encountered such big battles one after another. Huyuer's intuitive worldview was about to be refreshed. The world outside was really dangerous. Big brother. Nezha looked in the direction Dong Shu pointed, and saw Roha standing in the air, smiling and nodding to him. His hair was loosely draped behind his head, and that Jingxi lotus robe stood out. Nezha believed that in the 3 realms, it was definitely a unique existence. Big brother. Dong Shu's face was full of puzzlement, and he looked at Nezha suspiciously, not knowing if this uncle had been brainstorming, and he actually said such a word. Did the great god admit the wrong person? Dong Shu carefully accompanied Nezha. Facing this high-ranking god in the heavenly court, the 3rd-generation disciple of Chanzhou, his flattery was not too much. Hundreds of years later, he went to the heavenly court, and his position was far from comparable to that of Nezha. Brother, I didn't expect us to meet so soon. Roha nodded with a smile, with a bit of helplessness in his expression. He really didn't expect that Nezha came so coincidentally just now. Nezha had a bit of embarrassment on his face. He also never expected that he would be able to see his big brother here. When he turned to look at Dong Shu beside him, his face was full of anger. Snapped. Blind your dog's eyes. You actually recognized my elder brother as a monster. Who gave you the guts? Nezha slapped Dong Shu's face with a slap. The elders and disciples of the Jinxia faction suddenly shivered. Dong Shu's left face, which was slapped by Roha earlier, was slapped by Nezha again at this time, swollen like a balloon. Big, great god. With an unbelievable look on Dong Shu's face, he lowered his head and didn't even dare to resist. His eyes floated in the direction of Roha, and he wanted to cry without tears. How could he recognize the identity of the person who came? But the gatekeeper shouted at the door, saying that a big demon was coming. He couldn't see through Roha's realm, let alone his breath, but the jade-faced fox beside him was indeed it as a demon clan, and I take it for granted that the person in front of me is a big demon. Neja ignored Dongshu's dead father's expression, put up auspicious clouds, put away his weapons, but came to Roha's side. Why did eldest brother come to my uncle Yu Ding's Taoism? Now this situation, little brother is really confused. Neja bowed to Roha with a puzzled look on his face. Brother Xian laughed. It's a bit embarrassing to say this. Brother Xian, let's see it for yourself. Roha pretended to be a helpless smile. Vivi waved his hand, but beside him there was a water 1 meter long and wide. Mirror. This water mirror is the harvest of Roha's research on the technique of the 5 elements. It was adapted from the water mirror technique of Naruto World. It lost the function of being able to bounce back and imitate any spell, but it can show the picture that the caster wants. In the water mirror, the picture that Roha came to is displayed as it is, without any deletions. After Neja watched it, his face was full of anger. The situation in the mirror, when Roha came, was interested in this yin-yang falling immortal formation, descending from the sky, and straight to the main entrance. It proved that he did not have any bad intentions. He didn't say anything after that, and there was a monster and a monster on the opposite side. Even if Neja watched it, he felt that the Jinxia faction was too overbearing and domineering. You bastard. Dongshu, get out of here. Also, bring the 2 gatekeepers to me. Neja said in a deep voice, and scolded the head of the Jinxia sect directly. Although he was not a disciple of Master Yuding, but he had a good relationship with Yang Jian. Master Yuding and Master Tai belonged to the same sect. At this time, he scolded the head of the Jinxia sect without showing any sympathy. In fact, Roha can see that Neja's current behavior is to dispel his anger, and he doesn't want this Jinxia faction to suffer any big losses. After all, facing his own existence, he doesn't know the details best. At this time, Dongshu didn't know where he had provoked someone he couldn't provoke. You must know that even Neja was arrogant and never scolded him like this. And look at Neja's respectful appearance to Roha. The identity of the Comer is even higher than him. He is already a figure that his sect leader cannot match. Dongshu was convicted, but Dongshu was impulsive. He didn't ask the reason, and he collided with Shangxian. Dongshu, the head of the Jinxia faction, came to Roha with an extremely ugly expression on his face, and he apologized. Half a sentence, seeing Neja staring, he stopped angrily. The scene in the water mirror just now has already told the cause and effect of the matter. With his eyesight, he can naturally see it, and only a wry smile is left in his heart. During this period, the other party issued a warning twice, but he still insisted on doing his own thing, and recognized that the other party was a monster. No matter how he counted it, it was their fault. Several people lowered their bodies from the air, and in a moment, the 2 gatekeepers were tied up and brought to Roha and Neja. At this time, the 2 disciples in the gods were only shivering with fright. Their ancestors have already bowed to admit their mistakes. How could they be an exception? Prostrate on the ground, and began to beg for mercy. Shangxian, God, the villain is ignorant. He bumped into Shangxian, and begged for a light hair. Qingwei's face was filled with tears, and her forehead was smashed to the ground one after another. I beg the immortal to release the villain once. The villain knows what's wrong, and the villain knows it's wrong. Qinghong was even more helpless than Qingwei. His eyes were blurred. He was obviously frightened, and he just kept begging for mercy. Please God. Dongshu looked ugly, leaned over and bowed, and opened his mouth to Neja and Roha. Chapter 1191-expel the Jinxia school. Even if he is the head of the Jinxia sect, he must be punished for provoking an existence that cannot be provoked. There are strict ranks in the sect of interpretation. Although Neja is not a disciple of the real Yuding, he is also the Taoist of the sect, but he is also punished by him. Right. You must know that since the beginning of 10,000 years, although he was one of the more outstanding disciples of the Jinxia sect, since the establishment of the Jinxia sect, there have been several Tai-Lus immortals. What he has occupied is nothing more than having merit in the management of the sect in the lower realm, in order to obtain the promise of Master Yuding to go to the upper realm to be a god. If the other party is really that amazing person, God knows whether he has his share in the matter of ascending to the upper realm. Humph. These two have eyes but no pearls, no distinction between immortals and demons, and they are in vain as disciples of the Jinxia sect. Immediately abolish their cultivation bases and expel them from the Jinxia sect. Dong Shu, protect me, I will punish you for 500 years in a quiet room. Can you wait? Although Neja's face is like a child, but at this time, he is giving orders, but he has a kind of power on his body. After all, he is a figure in charge of hundreds of thousands of heavenly soldiers. Master, Master, please help the disciple to pray to God. The disciple knows it's wrong. The disciple knows it's wrong. Qingwei, who was lying on the ground, heard that the punishment was so severe, and she burst into tears as she turned to a real person beside her. The fairy realm elder begged for love. The elder of the real immortal realm couldn't bear to ask for mercy, but before he could say anything, Neja glared at him with a stern look, and the pressure of the golden immortal realm almost made him kneel on the ground. With a sigh in his heart, the true immortal elder could only turn his face to one side, not to look at the two disciples on the ground. Qingwei and Qinghong's cries made his heart feel like a knife being cut. Crashed into Shangxian, Dongshu is willing to accept the punishment, thank God for his magnanimity. The head of the Jinxia sect was relieved when he heard Neja's punishment, and thanked him in a hurry. 500 years in the face of the wall is nothing more than 500 years of hard work. This time limit is wonderful, and after it comes out, it is the time limit for God to be an official that Jade Ding Zhenren told him. Neja Ming's punishment is actually a kind of protection for him. After all, Dongshu is a person who has practiced for 10,000 years. Hearing that, knowing Yi is naturally a constant thanks. As for the other two disciples, Dongshu hated them to the point of tickling their teeth, so who would care about their life and death? For monks, abolishing their cultivation base is more serious than taking their lives. As a Taoist, if their cultivation base is abolished, I am afraid that they will be cut off and die within 10 years at most. You don't need to do this, brother, it's just a misunderstanding. Roha shook his head helplessly when he heard Neja's punishment. He was just here to get a treasure chest. Who knows why this happened? Although Neja's punishment was appropriate, he was not an aggressive person either. If he admits his mistake and is sincere, he can generally forgive the other party. Big brother, they have a good life. It's you who met. If it were anyone else, I'm afraid this Jinxia sect would have turned into ruins at this time. This kind of arrogance can't be tolerated, so please don't ask for mercy, eldest brother. Neja cupped his hands, with a bit of seriousness on his face, and Roha didn't say more when he saw this. This Neja is indeed a person. On the one hand, he helped Roha get angry with a high-sounding voice, and on the other hand, he also took the guilt of the head of the Jinxia faction lightly. 500 years is naturally a frightening number for ordinary people, but for monks above the Tai realm, it is only a period of hard work, and it is nothing at all. Those two Jinxia sect disciples who were crying more and more were directly abolished by Ding Shouwei and thrown out of the mountain gate. Not much better than mortals. Even when they were used to having real essence and their cultivation base was abolished, it was even more unacceptable to them than killing them. From then on, they were no longer high-ranking disciples of the Jinxia school. The head of the Jinxia faction, Dong Shu, took the punishment and went directly into the wall-faced room in the back mountain. The jade-faced fox Huyuer, who had been standing behind Roha, was full of sluggishness, only knowing that he followed his master mechanically. She has not yet reacted from this series of great changes. Neja, who is also an interpreter, actually punished the disciples of Jinxia sect. Two Tao enlighteners who were higher than her cultivation realm were abolished and thrown out like rags, and even the other party's high-ranking sect master was punished to face the wall and think about it. Brother, please. After Neja finished dealing with Dongshu and his two disciples, he raised his hand and invited Roha to go to the main hall of the Jinxia sect. This Jinxia faction has been established for thousands of years, because it is located in the prosperous land of the human race, and the buildings that should be matched are much stronger than the blood transformation sect and the corpse refining sect. Accompanied by all the elders of Jinxia Mountain, and all the disciples lined up on both sides to show their welcome, Roha and Nezha came to the reception hall of the Jinxia sect together. Dongming, instruct the disciples to serve the best spirit fruit and immortal brew. Nezha said to the great elder of the Jinxia faction, and quietly used his divine sense to transmit the sound. Go and bring 100 jars of your Lingyun immortal brew, and 2 more jars to drink. Yes, please, the gods, please wait a moment. The first elder, Dongming, was a cultivator of the real immortal realm. This Lingyun fairy brew is a special product of the Jinxia school. It is brewed with Lingyun Shanhuan, supplemented with fairy rice, 1,000-year-old elixir, and various spiritual materials. After 1,000 years of brewing, it can be formed. Power, purifying true essence. Ordinary monks in the early stage of refining the mirror, taking one altar, as long as the state of mind is sufficient, they can reach the middle stage, and the mid-term cultivation can also become the later stage by taking 2 altars. This precious immortal brew was not enough for Jinxia to send himself. He took out 100 altars all at once, which was like a drop of blood in his heart, but knowing that he had collided with a great character, he couldn't care about that much at this time. Since the last time Roha said to Nezha when he was about to leave, he would bring some immortal brew next time. This Nezha became interested, thinking that he liked what was in the cup, and apologized at this time. Of course you have to choose what the other person likes. In a moment, that kind of precious fruit spirit material was placed on the table, and Roha looked at the 2 rare acquired spirit fruits, star fruit and golden light, with a hint of surprise on his face. Carambola is like that green pear, it can purify the primordial spirit, and it is accompanied by a certain cultivation level that can improve it. Among the acquired spiritual fruits, it is already regarded as the top thing. The effect of golden light is different. There are thousands of knots in the flesh, and it contains strong vitality, but it can help practitioners to condense the flesh. Chapter 1182 _ Thank you sir. Just received the acquired spirit root, Qingli fruit tree, of the long-lived fox king Huangqi. Facing the 2 acquired spirit fruits, Roha inevitably had a thought in his heart. However, the characteristics of these 2 kinds of treasures are too obvious. As the Taoist line of the real person of Yuding, it is definitely not suitable to rob them, but it is obviously impossible to be like the long-lived fox king. Shaking his head, Roha can only temporarily put this idea in his heart. Although this kind of thing is planted in the lower realm, it must always be supplied to the real Jade Ding. Without the approval of the real Jade Ding, how can it be easily obtained? Although the spiritual root planted with the core has a certain effect, it is undoubtedly a lot worse. Just like the 9,000-year-old peach tree in the Naruto world, Roha estimates that after it grows, it will be able to bear 6. The fruit of 1,000 years. However, the 6,000-year-old Pantao was enough to live forever, and it was temporarily enough for the girls. If there was a need in the future, he wouldn't mind going to the Pantao garden to dig a few 9,000-year-old plants while the monkeys were making a fuss in the heavenly palace. After eating a golden glow, Roha stopped. This kind of thing is no longer of much use to a monk in his realm. Brother, is this your new maid? The 5-tailed demon fox is a bit worse than the previous one, Isn't this the daughter of the long-lived old fox, Princess Jade Mian? Take a golden on and eat it with the skin on, not caring about the image at all. For Nezha in the golden immortal realm, Huyuer's real body can easily be seen, a 5-tailed demon fox, compared to the 5-clawed white dragon Aokunshin, and the 3-clawed white dragon Aoli, but it is a bit worse. However, the long-lived Fox King is a Taoist at the level of Jinxian. He is considered to be a famous monster in Nanshanbujo. Outside of Qingqiu Mountain, there are not many fox tribes with bloodlines to this extent. He changed his mind and already guessed the identity of Huyuer. There are all kinds of ties between me and the Qingqiu Mountain Fox clan, but this time, I took her by my side. Roha smiled and nodded, directly admitting Huyuer's identity, and casually placed her in the fruit bowl. He took a golden mango and a star fruit and handed them to Huyuer. Thank you, master, for the reward. Huyuer obediently made a blessing and took the golden mango and star fruit with both hands. Thinking that it was not suitable for consumption at this moment, she put it into the zumi bag. Long live the old Fox King is really lucky to be able to send his daughter to the eldest brother. Neja laughed and praised the good luck of the long-live Fox King and Princess Yumian. In his heart, following Roha is definitely the future. Infinite. Hu Yuer also felt very fortunate. Yingying made a blessing to Neja, and Roha was also a great person in his heart to be the eldest brother of the first general of the Weishu division, which is famous in the Three Realms. It's all about the fate of each person. Roha shook his head with a smile and looked at the door of the main hall, only to see the great elder Dongming, who had already walked in with 2 jars of Lingyun Immortal Brew. Brother, this is a special product of the Jinxia school, Lingyun Immortal Brew. Although it is not as good as the 9 Heavens Immortal Brew at the Imperial Banquet in the Heavenly Court, it is still a good spirit wine. Brother, try it first. Neja saw that Dongming entered the door with 2 jars of wine in his arms, raised his hand, placed the 2 jars of wine on the table in front of the two, and took it over and handed Zumi Jia. He flipped open the seals of the 2 jars of wine, and an intoxicating aroma of wine dissipated in the room in an instant. Neja took 2 jade cups and filled them directly. The wine jar is only the size of a palm, and all kinds of spiritual materials have been completely dissolved in the wine, and this wine jar is engraved with a small sumer formation, and the content is probably no less than 10 pounds. Roha has been in the world of pirates and Naruto, and it can be regarded as a long experience in the wine field, but this is the first time I have seen this fairy brew. Vivi smelled the aroma of wine in the air, picked up the wine, shook it gently, and the tip of her nose was light. Sniff, a smile appeared on his face. Just based on the aroma of the wine, this wine is better than all the famous wines he had drunk before. If there is a chance, he will be able to let Makino come to this world on a journey to the west. With his brewing talent, he will definitely be able to brew a good fairy brew. After a light sniff, Roha took a sip, swallowed it, nodded, shook his head again, and then poured another glass of wine directly. In Neja's view, it must be the appearance of the person who likes what is in the cup. After all, when a military general like him drinks, the cup is always dry, so he will smell it before tasting it, and then drink it in one gulp. Brother, how is this spiritual immortal brewing? Neja asked with a slightly satisfied, but slightly regretful look on his face when he saw that Roha had finished drinking. The wine is good wine, and the spirit materials used are not bad. It complements the spirit spring, but this wine is missing something, but it's a pity. Confused. The wine he drank was quite good. Although it was a little worse than Judian Shanju, it was considered a first-class good thing. How could it be worse? Can the eldest brother solve the puzzle? The younger brother can't drink what is missing from this wine. The soul of wine, the wine has its own soul, and is integrated into the feelings of the winemaker. Only that kind of wine can be regarded as a top-quality wine. This lingering fairy brew has a good taste and taste. Can only be called middle grade. Quote. Tisk, why is my eldest brother talking like Dukong, the bad wine fairy, but he has criticized me many times for not knowing good wine. Hearing this, Neja touched the tip of his nose a little angrily. I remembered what Dukong once said to him. Haha, Dukong, wonderful person. Roha laughed and saw Neja filling up the wine glass. Instead of touching it and drinking it all in one gulp, he was already thinking in his heart, whether what Neja said about Dukong might be what he heard in his previous life. To that, Ju Zu Dukong. Brother, this Lingyun Immortal Brew is already a rare good thing in Jinxia Mountain. No matter how good Immortal Brew is, they can't come up with it. This Baitengquan should apologize to the eldest brother. I just hope that the eldest brother will not care about them. Next time my younger brother comes to the door, I must go to Dukong to grab a few jars of top-quality Immortal Brew. Neja scratched his head. Originally, he thought that Baden Lingyun Immortal Brew was considered generous, but now it seems that it is still not enough. It even makes people feel embarrassed to take out his hand, so he can only add a sentence after it, take a good drink next time to make up. Is your eldest brother such a stingy person in your heart? It's just a misunderstanding, I didn't take it to heart. Rojas saw Neja's expression and knew what was in his heart, smiled and shook his head. He waved his hand to put away the Nasumi ring. Accepting something is equivalent to ending the cause and effect. After that, there can be no more troubles because of this matter. No matter whether he takes it to heart or not, in order to make the other party feel relieved, this thing must be accepted. Chapter 1193_Pioneering Idea. Big Brother is not such a stingy person. It's just that Little Brother has received a lot of benefits from Big Brother, but so far, he has not thought of how to pay it back. Neja had a somewhat embarrassed look on his face. Naturally, what he said was the previous Tao Enlightenment tea. That Tao Enlightenment tea has a lot of effects. What he learned from drinking tea at Rojas' place has not yet been fully digested. The other 2 tea leaves are also preserved. If there is another chance, I believe that with the remaining tea leaves, he is expected to hit the realm of the middle stage of Jinxian. Using other people's things to pay back his own favor. This Neja, it's not too much to say that he is a human being, but this Neja's essence is open and straightforward, and he can say everything outright, but Roja is not. Hate this kind of person. At least people have been gracious and know how to find ways to pay back, rather than being jealous and framed like some people in turn. My brother has a heart, it's just 2 insignificant pieces of tea. Roja shook his head with a smile, and exposed the matter. He came here to get a treasure chest, not for such a petty profit. By the way, eldest brother, there is something that my younger brother forgot to tell you. Neja finished the matter of Jinxia Mountain, but suddenly remembered something, frowned, and said in a deep voice. Oh, what's the matter? Roja Vivi was stunned for a moment, looking at Neja's serious expression. What he was about to say didn't seem to be a trivial matter. After my younger brother went back to heaven, I told Shengguan about the South Blue matter on the top of Lingxiao Palace, but I accidentally heard Taibijingxing say that Monster Slaughter Mountain has a lot of backgrounds, and it was taken over by a great power hundreds of thousands of years ago. Come on, I wonder if Big Brother knows about this. Neja frowned, with a bit of worry on his face. He didn't even want to mention the person Taibijingxing said. He is proficient in Buddhism and Taoism, and his cultivation is penetrating into the sky. Now that the saint is gone, almost no one in the 3 realms can provoke such an existence. If Roja has the intention to occupy the monster-slaying mountain, I am afraid it will be a big trouble. You are talking about fellow Taoist Subhuti. I have already unblocked the mountain of slaughtering demons, and fellow Taoist Subhuti has also come here. By his affection, the mountain of slaughtering demons is now my dojo. Roja raised his eyebrows, and said to Neja, the matter of killing the demon mountain before, let alone Neja, he was also startled, but Subhuti was a good talker, but he also remembered this in his heart. A favor. Tao, fellow Taoist. Neja's cheeks twitched, the seriousness on his face could not be maintained at all, and Patriarch Subhuti called each other fellow Taoist. What a joke. What is the origin of this Big Brother? Standing behind Roja, the jade-faced fox viewer has beautiful eyes and wide-open eyes, with an unbelievable expression on her face. The range of friends her master can make is far beyond her imagination. Patriarch Subhuti, that is a legendary figure. The elders of the Jinxia faction who accompanied him were all trembling in their hearts and souls, and their spirits were a little unstable. To be able to praise each other as Taoist friends with Patriarch Subhuti is definitely an existence that can be counted in the 3 realms. The head of the family was not slapped to death by a slap. Brother Xian's expression is really funny. If you go to my place often, maybe you can meet him. Roja chuckled, and he naturally knew how shocking the name between him and Subhuti was. However, he is confident that sooner or later, he will reach or even surpass the level of the Hunyuan Deluo Jinxian, but he has never felt that there is anything wrong with this friend. It is very likely that he will be able to call him a friend in the future. Instead, it's an honor. I'd rather not touch it, little brother. Neja gave a wry smile and shook his head. Thinking about the scene of Subhuti's mighty power, he himself felt uncomfortable. With a monk like that, not to mention praising each other as Taoist friends, sitting down and drinking tea, but even letting him stand aside, he felt a lot of pressure. It is always beneficial to see those monks more often. Roja said to Neja a little helplessly, but there was a bit of earnest teaching in his words. What big brother taught me? Neja handed over his hands to be taught, and thought about it in his heart, but it was the same thing. If he was often with that kind of great master, maybe a word by chance could make him make great progress. The two exchanged cups, accompanied by a group of elders from the Jinxia faction. After 2 jars of wine, Neja's cheeks were flushed, and Roja cheated by relying on the system warehouse, and his face did not change. All of this Lingyun immortal brew was stored in the system warehouse. Although it was a little wasteful, if he really drank it like Neja, he would probably be drunk and confused now. Immortal brew is different from ordinary wine. Even for those who have become immortals, it is still effective, otherwise Neja will not be what he is now. Brother, accompany me to visit this Jinxia school. After I go back, I want to clean up my demon-slaying mountain. Roja was thinking about the treasure chest. After drinking the wine, the treasure chest will naturally be picked up. On the agenda. 3 treasure chests are the main purpose of Roja's trip. This Lingyun fairy brew is at most a side dish. If the treasure chest is not taken, then this trip, he picked up sesame seeds and lost watermelon. Clean up monster-slaying mountain. Big brother, doesn't he also want to start a sect? With a bit of doubt on his face, Neja waved back a group of elders from the Jinxia sect and took Roja to the outside world. This Jinxia faction, he has come countless times before and after, as the leader, but there is nothing wrong. It's not enough to start a sect, the immortal road has no boundaries, but I have the intention to accept a few disciples. Roja was reminded by Neja, his heart changed, and he replied casually. Whether it was in Naruto world or pirate world, he had a large number of subordinates, and now he is in the westward journey world. Although he is still in the middle and high level among the monks, the matter of cultivating his subordinates has to be mentioned. Schedule. After all, if in the future, like Pirate World and Naruto World, they are the masters of Journey to the West, and they gain the supreme power of origin, and then let Daemon and Buddhism manage these 4 continents, but no matter how they look at it, it is not suitable. Journey to the West is different from the Naruto world. It is not a one-time thing to gain the power to subdue all beings here. It is always beneficial to recruit some disciples and improve their strength at the same time. Disciple. Yes, eldest brother is now in a state of enlightenment, so it's appropriate to accept a few disciples. Neja nodded and opened the way ahead. Although this Jinxia sect is not the largest sect in Nansanbu continent, its disciples are skilled in alchemy and treasure concocting, and the various facilities are complete. Chapter 1194-Mount Order. There are 8 scenic spots in the Jinxia school, and they are all well known among the practitioners in the whole Nansanbu continent. The Red Cliffs, the Milky Way at night, the rolling waves on the pine hills, the waterfalls passing through the clouds, the snow clouds covering the tops, the white cranes around the beams, and the dangerous mountains. Lingquan, rooftop Lingguang. One word and one scene. Neja has come a lot, and he knows a lot about the various landscapes here. Along the way, he explained various scenes to Roja eloquently. At first, Neja took Roja around, but later he saw that his eldest brother's purpose was obviously not these so-called landscapes, so he stopped guiding. In the sect hall of the Jinxia sect, Roa Adam walked in first and saw the Tai treasure chest at the head of the main hall. Do not change it. Neja saw that Roja went straight into the sect hall, and he suddenly realized that if the other party was for the purpose of opening a mountain and accepting apprentices, it would not be the original 3-entry courtyard, and those landscapes could not attract him of course. Roja stepped onto the main seat of the hall, waved his hand to put away the Tai treasure chest, and a smile appeared on his face. There are too many twists and turns to take a treasure chest. I secretly made up my mind that I will have as little as possible to have anything to do with this sect in the future. Quietly took the treasure box and walked quietly. Roja spoke directly to the system in his heart and ordered. System, open the Tai treasure chest. Congratulations to the host for opening the Tai treasure chest and obtaining the Mount Order. Mount Order, you can compulsorily subdue Jinxian and the following strange beasts, monsters, and beasts as mounts. If you don't enter Deluo, you can't resist. Once subdued, even if you are promoted to Deluo in the future, you can't betray. Fuck his sister. Fuck it. Roja looked at the system warehouse, and there was a hint of joy on the face of the palm-sized mount order. This thing is a bug-level thing. Golden Immortal Mount. If you don't enter Deluo, you can't resist. As long as you conquer it, there will be no trouble. Even if this mount can break through to a higher level in the future, it still can't break free. Among the three realms, Jinxian is already a very strong existence. You must know that Nezha is in the early stage of Jinxian, and he can become the first general of the Weishu division, which shows the gold content of this Jinxian level. If there was this mount order earlier, why would he use so much nonsense with that long-live Fox King? If the token is lost, it will be a seven-tailed mount. However, according to his own identity, Nanwei is still a bit out of grade. It must be the kind of nine-headed lion, Pixiu, Teoti, or Bai-Zi. This kind of divine beast and fierce beast can be worthy of his own identity. When I think about the future appearances, riding a Bai-Zi mount, it is really full of wind and rush, like the beast of the Bull Demon King that pierces water and golden eyes. Compared with Bai-Zi, it is very weak. A low laugh in his heart, Roja put the mount order in a conspicuous place full of YY, thinking in his heart, is it going to look for the Flood Demon King, Pung Demon King? Try this mount order. Effect. As for the Bull Demon King, let's forget it for now. If the old bull wants to say that there is no one behind him, even a fool will not believe it. In the original work, Sun Wukong faced the Bull Demon King on his way to obtain the scriptures. Various gods and Buddhas came to help Sun Wukong one after another. Among the Buddhists, Jintojia, Lujia Luding, 18 Guardian Jolins, and the 4 King Kong relatives led the Buddhist soldiers. In the Heavenly Court, the Jade Emperor ordered Li Jing and Prince Nezha to lead the heavenly soldiers and generals to help out, and all the gods in the past void stayed behind to help fight. The Bull Demon King fought hard, but in the end he was dragged until his physical strength was exhausted, and he was captured by the demon rope, and then he was taken to the west. Roja shook his head, threw out the boundless fantasies in his mind, nodded to Nezha, walked out of the hall with Huyuer, and went straight to the elders' residence halfway up the mountain. The residence of the elders and the residence of the disciples are far apart. All the elders are the 7 people who enter the courtyard. Compared with the residences of these elders, Roja felt that his small courtyard in Monster Slaying Mountain was really low enough. Big Brother also said that it wasn't for the purpose of establishing a sect, so he really bullied the younger brother when he was young. Nezha said with a smile when he saw Roja's second destination. How come? This thing has to be prepared. After all, once I open the mountain gate, I actually don't even know how many disciples I can accept. It's not easy to pinpoint the fate of the law. Maybe I will only accept 1 or 2 people at that time. Or maybe, it was impossible to stop a large number of them. Quote. Roja shook his head helplessly. He took a treasure chest. The lies were one after another. They all said that the birth of every lie requires thousands of lies to make up for the loopholes, but this is the truth. What eldest brother said is right, the fate is hard to say, even the above people are difficult to figure out. Nezha nodded, he was just chatting, the purpose of his coming here this time has been blown away. When I go back, I don't know how to explain it to the other brother. By the way, Brother Xian, what are you here for? Don't tell me to wander around at will, don't believe it. Roja joked at Nezha as he walked in the direction of the elder's residence. I came to get the treasure chest by myself, and Nezha just happened to be slapped by that yin and yang divine light. This kind of coincidence is a bit too coincidental. To say that he passed by chance, Roja would not believe it. Nezha had a somewhat embarrassed look on his face, hesitantly didn't know how to speak. He didn't come here to tell anyone, but the implication was told, but let others, there is a kind of I feel like he is eating inside and out. If it's inconvenient to say, just pretend I didn't ask. Roja waved his hand indifferently. Although he was curious, He was not someone who asked the bottom line. Neja's expression obviously has something to hide. Anyway, as long as it's not about him, he has always kept aloof. Troublesome things, whoever likes to be involved, he only wants the treasure chest now. It's not that it's inconvenient to say, it's just what the younger brother did about this matter. How can I say it? I am sorry to go up the peak. Open to Roja. How do you say this? In my heart, you are not that kind of person. Roja raised his eyebrows and casually agreed. Hey, eldest brother, let me tell you the truth. This time I came to this Jinxia faction, my little brother came to look for that Yang Chan, That is the younger sister of eldest brother Yang Jian. Neja had a somewhat embarrassed look on his face. Seeing that there was no one around, he simply said it thoroughly. Anyway, in his heart, Roja is not a person who talks nonsense. It doesn't matter if he says this. Chapter 1195-Mother Earth Stone. Yang Jian's younger sister Yang Chan. Well, Yang Jian and Tianting are now opposed to each other, and you are caught in the middle, and it is really not easy to do. Roja heard Neja's words, and Vivi turned in his mind, but he understood that Neja was hesitant. Reason. Now is the time when Yang Jian and Tianting are opposed to each other. Yang Jian lives in the mouth of Guanzhong. He has 1,200 grass-headed gods, and he leads the 6 brothers of Meishan. The uncle beats the nephew, and the nephew rises up to resist this kind of thing. No one in the 3 realms can control it. The Jade Emperor and Yang Jian have been fighting for a long time. Suspicion. But when the gods were conferred, Neja and Yang Jian were like brothers and sisters, and they both blocked each other's knives. Their friendship was even far better than the brotherhood of Neja, Jin Za, and Mu Za. Heavenly Court has repeatedly sent troops to encircle and suppress Yang Jian, and the Jade Emperor is already angry. If this matter spreads, it will damage Neja's reputation. Even if he returns to Heavenly Court, he will be punished to some extent. The big brother understands the younger brother. Neja breathed a sigh of relief. When he said this, he had no burden in his heart. The relationship between Yang Jian and him was too strong, and at the risk of offending Shengfang, he went out to find his sister, and he also really helpless. Since ancient times, loyalty and righteousness have been difficult to achieve. What is difficult to understand, but you should try not to mention this to anyone. Thank you, eldest brother, for reminding me. My brother is awake. If it wasn't for eldest brother to ask, this little brother would definitely be rotten in his stomach. Well, did Yang Chan find it? Roja nodded and chuckled, but he asked about the famous 3 virgins in the previous life. Now that the Jade Emperor has not recruited Yang Jian, Yang Chan has not been canonized as the 3 holy mothers yet, but when he was consecrated before, Yang Jian already had the divine position of Erlang Shanshengzhenjin. Hey, Sister Yang Chan's cultivation realm is too low, and it is not safe in Guanzhongkou. She was originally protected by this Jinxia faction. This time, the younger brother quietly went down to see her, and sent some things by the way, but after she came, Sister Yang Chan again slipped. Neja's face was bitter. Obviously, she was really angry with her sister Yang Chan. Wouldn't it be better to stay here in peace? Why do you always like to give people some trouble? Again, it doesn't seem to be the first time. Roja said with a smile. Although he didn't mean to mix things up in the 3 worlds, he was always right. Well, big brother Yang Jian cultivates Dao practitioners, and sister Yang Chan cultivates Dao practitioners, but she has always been dissatisfied with the progress of her own practitioners, and she even abandoned her cultivation practice many times and ran out to ask someone to teach her the exercises of the practitioners, the 3 realms. Among them, she is very famous, causing countless mortal practitioners to numb their scalps. Everyone should avoid it. Yeah, Neja nodded with a wry smile. Erlang Shanshengzhenjin's younger sister was designated a Taoist 10,000 years ago, and Yang Jian strictly urged her to practice. There are several people in the world who will teach her to practice Taoism. The power of the person. The human-god hybrid should have an extraordinary talent, but Yang Chan has devoted himself to the practice of Taoist practitioners. He has extended his life several times over the past 10,000 years. Tisk tisk, this Yang Chan is interesting. Roha chuckled and shook his head. He didn't know what to say to such a strange woman. Those who are enlightened are those who are enlightened. Although the speed of cultivation is slow, once they achieve the status of immortals, as long as they can avoid the three disasters, they can enjoy endless longevity. Hey, I still don't know how to explain to brother Yang Jian later that sister Yang Chan's life expectancy is approaching. If I can't find it in 10 or 8 years, if I see you again, maybe it will become a pile of dead bones. The more Nezha said, the more bitter his expression became, and his heart was full of pain. He was the first general of the Guards Division, and every day because of these trivial things, his hair was almost bald. How can it be so difficult? It's still 10 or 8 years, doesn't Yang Jian have a roaring dog? Take a magic weapon like Chasing Soul, it's not easy to find it if you smell it. Roha said curiously, long gone the last time I found him with a treasure similar to that, he was deeply impressed. That kind of magic weapon is easy to use or not to refine. Uncle Yuding made one before, but Sister Yang Chan took it away, and it's hard for my younger brother to ask for a master. Nezha helplessly spread his hands. He and Yang Jian, they are all practitioners, and things like treasure refining are really embarrassing them. Take it. Roha rolled his eyes and threw out a middle-grade magic weapon. Now the high-grade magic weapon can let him take a few more glances. The middle-grade magic weapon is garbage to him, and the things that can be refined easily are not powerful enough to prevent disasters. This is the Jun bell. Nezha was stunned for a moment, and with the help of what Roha threw over, he took a closer look, with a bit of surprise on his face. A true seeking bell is a kind of thing that can find someone based on the accessories they use or their personal objects. Although this bell is only a middle-grade magic weapon, it cannot escape perception in a continent. The rubbish that Roha made at random was too cheap to use for his own women, so he simply put it in the system warehouse. At this time, seeing Nezha's words, he gave it to Nezha. Don't say I made it, the middle-grade magic weapon has a bad reputation. Roha waved his hand and asked Nezha. Okay. Nezha looked at Roha with a tangled face, thinking about the one in front of him. He seemed to have refined to a quiredling bow in a row, scratched the tip of his nose, and agreed. For a treasure refining master, this grade of treasure is really not worthy of his identity. Thinking about the middle-grade magic weapons that his master refined, it seems that they have also been redisassembled and made into ingredients, and generally they are not shown to others at all. Thank you, eldest brother. Nezha bowed his hands in a salute, with a serious look on his face. With this thing, the difficulty of finding Yang Chan has undoubtedly dropped by dozens of levels. There's nothing to be thankful for, it's just a garbage magic weapon. Roha waved his hand indifferently, and stepped into the courtyard of the Jinxia sect's great elder Dongming. After patrolling left and right, I saw the fairy treasure chest in the training room. After walking in, I waved it away and looked into the system warehouse. System, open the fairy treasure chest. Congratulations to the host for opening the fairy treasure chest and obtaining the Mother Earth stone. The original stone of the Mother Earth, 1 inch, can be obtained in 10,000 years. It contains the essence of the Mother Earth and causes the Earth to pulsate. Although it does not enter the innate, it should be the first heavy weapon under the innate. 1 foot can see the convenience of 10,000 caddies. It contains spirituality, gold and iron. Hard to hurt. Depend on. There are 10,000 pounds in 1 foot, so how heavy is this? Roha looked at the original mother stone that was the size of a refrigerator in the system warehouse. Vivi pumped on the face, and estimated in his heart that this thing should be at least about 1 million kilograms. Chapter 1196_What the hell is skull flying? With the growth of his knowledge, he will naturally not be ignorant of the original stone of the Mother Earth. Among the 3 realms, this kind of thing is often used to refine the seal, and it can be said that it is unfavorable to use it to smash people. Back then, Little White Dragon's 3 Mountains seal was made from about 10,000 caddies of rough earth mother stone, plus a bunch of other materials, such as deep-sea gold crystals. That 3-mountain seal ranks as a top-grade magic weapon, with a green body, and when it falls from the air with mana and inertia, it has a strength of at least 50,000 to 60,000 kilograms, which is considered a good treasure. Now Roja has obtained nearly 1 million kilograms of the original stone of the Mother Earth. As long as he goes back to sacrifice and refine it, it is the best magic weapon. Although it does not enter the day after tomorrow, but this thing smashes people, even the peak of Jinxian has to run away. 1 million pounds. The power falling from the sky may soar to 7 or 8 million gold. Who can stand it? If it is made into a brick, it is a smashing one. It is simply a god-level material for hitting a sap and making a black hand. Good things, good things. Roja's face was full of smiles. This thing, as long as it is properly refined, is enough for him to use the level of Daluo Jinxian. Even if you can add some other things and turn it into an acquired spiritual treasure, it would be really cruel. Roja thought to himself, if this treasure was refined, it would become an acquired spiritual treasure, and in the period of conferring gods, it would definitely be able to make peace with it. Fanshin Yindo fights. You hit anyone, your brain will burst. If you strike with a proper seal, all Kamusari divine departure retreats are to practice the top-level 8-9 mysterious art. If you hit it down, you won't be able to crack the brain, and the opponent's soul will tremble even if you hit it. No resistance. It's cruel enough, I like it. Roja was extremely satisfied, and put this Mother Earth stone and the 5-color sky-filling stone together. If there is a chance, he doesn't mind refining the 2 stones together. Fantianian is on the right, and it can also stabilize the other side. The 2 treasure chests on this trip have already made Roja extremely satisfied. Looking at the disciples' residence where the last diamond treasure chest shown on the map is located, he walked towards it. No matter how small a mosquito is, it is still meat. When he was in Pirate World and Naruto World, he didn't know how much he suffered for the diamond treasure chest. At this time, he should feel the hard journey. With the company of Neja, there was no obstacle along the way. All the disciples of the Jinxia sect bowed respectfully and saluted after seeing Roya, Neja and the jade-faced fox Huyur. Because the jade-faced fox follows Roja, his identity can be said to have risen, and his body is demonic, like a beacon in the night. The hearts of a group of Jinxia sect disciples are as entangled as they are, but they dare not show any dissatisfaction at all. Huyur bit her lower lip and followed closely behind Roja. The disciples who saluted around were a little too strange to her. This attitude was simply a 180-degree reversal. Walking to the annual salary platform in the center of the disciples' house, Roja has already seen the diamond treasure box in the center of the annual salary platform. The annual salary platform is the place where the sect distributes the benefits to the disciples every year, the medicinal pills for cultivation, the spiritual materials, and some things that the sect rewards. Usually, this year's salary platform is used as a place for the disciples to learn skills, but the disciples of the Jinxia sect are pampered, and few people will come to this year's salary platform to compete. Brother Xian, do you know what the Jinxia faction lacks? Roja said to Neja as he walked up to the annual salary platform. Lack. Little brother doesn't know, please ask big brother to make it clear. Neja asked with doubts on his face. Consciousness of distress, born in distress and dying in peace, the current Jinxia school has lived too comfortably, not to mention those who are enlightened, even the monks who are practitioners, their combat power is really unsatisfactory. That catastrophe similar to function, who would you say is the biggest beneficiary? Roja said casually, set foot on the annual salary platform, and patrolled left and right, and saw that the latest battle traces were left half a year ago. The diamond treasure chest in the central area was closed to the system warehouse by it, and Roja turned to look at Neja thoughtfully, with a smile on his face. The Buddhists are probably already planning to spread the Dharma from the east. Although the Buddhist soldiers go to the west only once in 100 years, to be honest, the combat power of the Buddhist soldiers is far higher than that of the current Taoist schools. Roja is not going to participate in the battle between Daomen and Buddhism for the time being, but he is quite happy to find some trouble for Buddhism. After all, if Buddhism wins too easily, it will not be a good thing for him. Brother, is this a calculation? Or, Neja's face was full of doubts. 10,000 years have passed since the battle of conferring the gods. Is it too early to say this at this time? Or, as Roha said, he has no sense of crisis at all. Can't say, can't say. Roha pointed to the sky with a slightly mysterious smile on his face, but this finger made Neja's thoughts even more certain. The next round of the game is likely to come in a few years, and his eldest brother's words are invisibly reminding him. The last time Buddhism took advantage of the fishermen, it took a lot of money, and the teaching and interception suffered heavy losses. If it continues to be damaged, it is very likely that even the Nansanbujo, the prosperous land of the human race, will be eroded by the Buddhism. Seeing Neja standing there thinking, Roha turned his attention to the diamond treasure chest in the system warehouse. Recalling bitterness and sweetness, he had a rare expectation for this diamond treasure chest in his heart. System, open the diamond treasure chest. Congratulations to the host for opening the diamond treasure chest and obtaining the flying skull technique. Skull flying technique, also known as the technique of beheading and ascension, hurts people for thousands of miles, and you can return to your place with a move of your mind. Beheading, hurt 1,000 miles. I'm going to your sister. How hurt? Bite with your teeth. System, are you kidding me? Nima, what kind of fairy magic is this? Is it worthy of the level of a diamond treasure chest? With a somewhat constipated look on Roha's face, he thought about cutting off his own head, ran thousands of miles away, and nibbled on the opponent's neck. System. Although I have this spell, I am not afraid that others will aim their weapons at my head from now on, and even the legendary slashing fairy flying knife can be avoided, but it is really unappetizing. That guy Shen Gongbao, in the conferred gods, is already miserable enough. The leopard has become a fine, but he has become an apprentice of Chan Zhao at the beginning. You know, Chan Zhao hates the so-called wet ovaries, with scales and armor. Life, where will teach him something. Chapter 1197_Congratulations. After the Chan teaching practice failed, Shen Gongbao went to intercept the teaching and wandering, because the art investment teacher, plus the previous Chan teaching person, also did not learn any serious spells. After going down the mountain, one person slapped a whole huge interception. This kind of spell is full of evil spirits. Compared with the continuation of the 72 transformations, I don't know how much worse it is. Roha feels very embarrassed when it is used. The only thing worth mentioning is that this spell is also effective for others, but it is also effective in relative terms. Roha ignores the monks who are one level higher than himself. A lower level, for him, unless the opponent has something like Chaos Bell, Zhu Xian 4 Swords, or 3 Treasures Jade Rui, it won't catch his eyes at all. Diamond Treasure Chest. When did you degenerate to such a level that you actually produced such a useless garbage? Roha just threw away the painful feeling in his heart. In his heart, he involuntarily aimed at the treasure chest with a higher level, the diamond treasure chest. For him at the time, it was indeed full of gold, but now with the improvement of realm and vision, it is undoubtedly a little worse. Thank you, eldest brother, for mentioning this. I will take this matter to heart. It's just this kind of thing. The little brother is very soft, but it is inevitable that he will tell the master. I don't know, eldest brother. Neja pondered for a while before speaking, but the meaning of his words was to ask Roha if he could mention his name to Master Tai. It's best not to mention my name. After all, this kind of thing, is at the risk of offending Buddhism. Roha raised his eyebrows and warned Neja. He believed that with Neja's shrewd character, he naturally knew what to do. He couldn't say what he said, but he could say a lot, such as a certain Western power, such as a traveling immortal. And Tai Zhenren is not a fool, this kind of thing will definitely not go to the bottom of it. It is a good thing for someone to say to him. As long as he is not stupid, he will be bored at this time. I understand, little brother. Neja nodded, and the two walked back to the place where Jinxia sent guests. It's about this time, but I'm leaving. Roha said goodbye to Neja and took the treasure chest. There was nothing in the Jinxia faction that could make him tempted. This piece of Earth Mother Stone is much better than those in the treasure house of the Jinxia school. As a treasure refining school, the Jinxia school consumes an astronomical number of heaven and earth treasures every year. The good stuff. Please accept these 2 items. If you come to the dojo under the name of my teaching in the future, you only need to show this jade order. The disciples will not dare to offend the majesty of the elder brother. As for this jade slip, it is the communication jade of the younger brother. Jane, if the eldest brother instructs you, the younger brother may go immediately. Neja patted the magic treasure on his waist, and took out a jade decree and a communication jade slip. The front of the jade decree was engraved with a large character, Chan, which obviously represented the Taoism of Chan sect, and Tai was engraved on the back. 2 words. The jade decree is full of the breadth of explaining the exercises, and just the word Tai, you know that this thing must be the master of Neja, the real Tai. Representing the 2nd generation of disciples of Chanjiao, that is, Master Yuding and Master Tai, there are only 24 jade decrees in the 3 realms, all of which were written by Yuan Shi Tianzun. The things that the sage personally refined, but others could not prevent it. When Neja was in the battle of conferring the gods, because he wanted to ask the great master to come out, this jade tablet was given to him by the real person Tai. After the conferring of gods, the real Tai, who has always protected the calf, did not take back the side in Neja's hand because he still had one in his hand. As for the other communication jade slip, it is not a simple thing. Although it is not at the same level as the teaching jade order, it is also from the master of treasure refining, Tai Zhenren. There are 2 communication jade slips in total. Even if Neja is on duty in the heavenly court, he can still receive the information passed on by this jade slip. Although it cannot be regarded as a magic weapon, few magic weapons can compare this effect. Brother Xian has a heart. Roha nodded, but put away the jade decree and the communication jade slip. With this jade decree, it would scare the grandsons of the lower realm to death. The 2 things that Neja gave are clever, but they actually have 2 meanings. One is to bring the relationship with Roha closer, and the other is to prevent his own disciple from colliding with his elder brother, and let the Taoism be destroyed for no reason. You must know that none of the 10,000 water clans left before, which shows that Roha is murderous, and he has killed so many people without any karma. I am afraid that the other party also has the treasure of killing without karma. Respectfully send eldest brother. Neja bowed respectfully, and the sect elders who had been waiting outside the reception hall also bowed and saluted respectfully. In the huge Jinxia mountain, thousands of disciples also heard Neja's voice through the vibration of immortal power, and all of them looked awe-inspiring, and bowed in the direction of Roha. Congratulations to the immortal. The chorus of congratulations made Vivi twitch in the corner of Roha's eyes. I don't know if it was an illusion. This made him feel like Lu Yu, the god of plague, and these grandsons were eager to leave early. Thinking about it, as soon as I came, the 2 disciples of the god transformation realm were abolished and kicked out of the sect, and even the head of the Jinxia sect was locked up. Shaking his head and throwing the thoughts out of his mind, Roha took Huyur, who was startled by the unison shouting beside him, to activate the ability of shining, and in an instant, he was tens of thousands of miles away. Big brother, this space supernatural power is really useful. I don't know if it is a Taoist supernatural power, or a natural supernatural power. Neja looked at Roha, who disappeared in a flash, with a somewhat envious look on his face. It is very convenient to use the spatial supernatural powers so casually. When you reach the high level, it is no more than a leisurely thing to turn a close distance into the world. Traveling to North Blue and Mu Kingwu is no longer just an empty talk. The difference is that Taoist supernatural power, Neja still has the possibility to learn. Talent supernatural power, that is personal talent, even if Roha tells him the principle, he can only be blinded. After coming tens of thousands of miles away, I found a relatively open area, and the jade-faced fox who were brought by Roha lowered his body from the air. You should practice this practice first. Your demonic aura is indeed a trouble. Let's go on the road after restraining the demonic energy. Roha pointed at Huyuer's bright and clean forehead, and put the Chengqing Xuantan secret seal too. The cultivation methods before Yi Sangxian have all been passed down in the past. Chapter 1198 _ Dragon King. Yuer has caused trouble for the master. Huyuer didn't perceive the exercises in his mind first, but instead made a blessing to Luo Yangying, with a little daughter's tender and pitiful face on his face, but he was very attractive. It's not unreasonable for ordinary people to compare that beautiful woman to a fox spirit. With this kind of ability to seduce men, I am afraid that not many people can compare with the jade-faced fox. It's nothing, you practice first. Roha shook his head, not taking the expression of the jade-faced fox to heart. This girl will seduce people, but he is not the kind of person who can't walk after seeing a beautiful woman. Although the jade-faced fox is charming and has an extremely charming aura, compared to the immortal-like Baiji, who is invisible and captivating, it is slightly inferior. Yes, Huyuer was a blessing again, crossed her knees on the huge bluestone under her feet, and began to read the information in her mind. The information passed on by Roha not only includes cultivation methods, but also many insights. Even if Huyuer has returned to Jilei Mountain now, he can successfully cultivate to the realm of Tai Sangxian. Going up the exercises, it's not that Roha is reluctant to pass on it, but that he only realized Tai Sangxian, and going up, he just has a little insight, which is completely different from the previous thorough analysis. Huyuer is different from Ao Kunshin. He is now looking for a treasure chest outside. He must pretend to be powerful. Although this little girl has good acting skills, her heart's ability to withstand obviously needs to be trained. In order to do things smoothly, it is better not to tell her the real situation. Besides, her father is a cultivator of Jinxian. If she knew the truth, God would know if she would still be willing to be a maid of a Tai Sangxian. In a moment, Huyuer, who had come to an understanding, abandoned her original practice and started to practice this Chengqing Xuantan secret seal from scratch. The authentic method of intercepting teaching. In less than 2 days, Huyuer transformed all the demon power into Xuanmen's true essence, and there was no demonic energy in her body. Thank you, grandfather, for the method. Huyuer woke up from the meditation, with a bright smile on her face. She had clearly felt the benefits of this method. Not only did she transform her miscellaneous demon power into Xuanmen's true essence, but she also improved a lot in her Taoism, and even removed the miscellaneous things. She felt a great sense of relief, as if she had lifted 1,000 jins of burden. Well, it's not bad. Roha raised his eyebrows, looked at the jade-faced fox in front of him, and nodded with equal satisfaction, secretly thinking that the 2 days of effort had not been in vain. Huyuer's temperament changed drastically after her bright demonic aura was gone. Although she still had that little daughter's temperament, she didn't have that coquettish feeling. Qingling Yusho, clean and dust-free between her brows and eyes, her eyes are flowing, like a clear spring, delicate and dripping, very like that lady, and this lady can act like a spoiled child, can be cute, and can be pleasing, which is rare. Thank you for your admiration, hee. Huyuer saw Roha's gaze, and after bowing again, she turned around lightly, and set a long white dress with a clanging bead hairpin above her head, which was particularly eye-catching. This mischievous appearance made Roha helplessly laugh, thinking to himself, the appearance of this maid, I don't know whether it is higher or lower than the fairy in the palace that day. Let's go, follow me to the Jing group on the edge of Chang'an City. Roha lightly nodded on Huyuer's forehead, and the skin-to-skin kiss made this girl look shy. Actuating the ability of brief, the two of them arrived at the edge of the Jing River Basin, dozens of miles away from the city wall of Chang'an City in the next moment. When Huyuer transformed his true essence, Roha had already planned the next itinerary, but there was a fairy treasure chest in this Jing. The treasure chest here is the closest treasure chest to him. It is less than 10,000 miles apart. It is the first stop in the planned itinerary. Although the level of the treasure chest is not very high, the name of this Jing River can be said to Roha. It's like thunder. The beginning of journey to the west was probably caused by the Jing Dragon King. Because Yuan Shusheng was able to figure out the location of the Jing aquarium and instruct the fishermen to fish, the Jing Dragon King was deeply angry and turned into a handsome man in white, and went to Chang'an City to find Yuan Shusheng's troubles. As a result, the Jing Dragon King lost the bet to Yuan Shusheng, and he was not willing to admit defeat and deliberately changed the imperial decree. The Dragon King of Jing asked Yuan Shusheng for help, and Yuan Shusheng asked him to seek help from Emperor Li Shimin of Tang Dynasty. Li Shimin promised to save him, but he was still beheaded by Wei Zheng, the heavenly official of the human realm, in a dream. After his death, his soul has been entangled in Li Shimin, and finally took Li Shimin's soul to the Yin division to confront him. The Yin division favored Li Shimin and let him return to Yang. It is precisely because of this incident that Li Shimin had the idea of letting Tang Xuanzang go west to learn scriptures, and later gave birth to the main line of the entire westward journey world. There are quite a lot of twists and turns in this, the unspeakable activities of heavenly court and Buddhism, some secret deals by those in power, the behavior of Taoism and Buddhism's arm wrestling, and the constant control of Taoism by heavenly court. Roha is too lazy to care about the conspiracy and tricks of the above people. For him, he can fight if he can, but dodge if he can't. He wants to meet the Jing Dragon King, just to see how stupid he is. He will bet for a bet. Covenant, tampering with the imperial edict without authorization. Points. Roha stood in front of the Jing River, compared the location of the treasure chest on the system map, and pointed out the water of the Jing River in front of him. He took the jade-faced fox and went straight to the bottom of the water. The 5 elements spells have now been thoroughly used by him. This method of dividing the water is the foundation of the foundation. After the water waves are separated, the water waves in the boundary that he and the jade-faced fox walked through are a foot away from them. Wandering down to the bottom of the water, Roha saw an extraordinarily luxurious dragon palace. This dragon palace is carved with beams and paintings, with glazed tiles on the top, marble on the bottom, and a big pearl hanging right in front of the dragon palace. It doesn't look like the residence of the River Dragon King at all. However, the incense of the human race that Jing is located on the edge of the imperial vein of the human world is much higher than that of other places. Even if it is compared to the Dragon King of the Four Seas, I am afraid that it is not much weaker, and it definitely belongs to the fat shortage in the heaven. Before reaching the edge of the Dragon Palace, nearly 1,000 shrimp soldiers and crab generals patrolling the river saw Roha and the jade-faced fox. The goldfish spirit looked at the eel spirit in a puzzled way, and saw that the eel spirit opened the sumaru bag at his waist, took out a roll of portraits, and after comparing the people in the portraits, his feet softened, his weapon dropped, and he instantly knelt on the ground. Chapter 1199-Welcome to the Immortal Dharma Driver. Jing Shui Clan, welcome to Shengxian Fahia. The eel essence shouted loudly, and the goldfish spirit on the side saw the picture scroll left on the ground, and instantly understood it, and hurriedly lay on the ground, all limbs trembling. The 2 leaders are still like this, and the remaining shrimp soldiers and crabs behind them are no exception. One by one, they put down their weapons and lie on the ground to greet them. Jing Shui Clan, welcome to the Immortal Dharma Drive. Thousands of Shui Clan shouted in unison, apparently also heard by the soldiers guarding the Jing Dragon Palace, and they all turned their attention, wondering which Sheng immortal was coming. The Jing River is located on the edge of the imperial vein. Although the Jing Dragon King can only be regarded as the River Dragon King, which is 1 level lower than the Four Seas Dragon King, the monks with extraordinary mana often visit. Ordinary monks came, and the sea patrol officer saw that he would not kneel so loudly to greet them. The 2 Sengxian Shui clan guarding the Dragon Palace looked at each other, but they ordered the surrounding Shui clan to wait for the 2 of them. In response, he informed the guards on the side to go and inform the Jing Dragon King. Roha raised his eyebrows when he saw the reaction of the patrolling aquarium, and with a tick of Vivi in his hand, the picture scroll of the eel essence was sent to him by the current. There is no name taboo on this scroll, but a Roha's appearance is engraved with mana, and it looks like it is 8 points similar. Tisk tisk, how come I'm the same as a wanted criminal? Roha muttered silently, waved his hand again to put a mana on the portrait, and even engraved a spell. This spell was adapted from the blood inheritance technique he obtained in Naruto World, and it was called Send Child Art. The effect was easy to understand and very simple. The Dragon King made a wanted order for himself, and he changed the wanted order into a god statue, and went back to let the gang of aquariums bow to his portrait without any problems. When Roha slaughtered the South Blue Dragon Prince Aokai and sent back the Four Seas Dragon King, the East Blue Dragon King felt that Roha could not be provoked. In order to prevent similar things from happening, it was time-consuming and laborious, and engraved countless scrolls with magic power. Among these scrolls, there are not only the portraits of Roha, but also countless existences in the three realms that cannot be provoked, such as Motoko Nazan, Subhuti, and various gods and bodhisattvas. The portraits were distributed to countless rivers in all corners of the world. The shrimp soldiers and crab generals were directly forced to come for a literacy. The immediate family members of the Dragon Palace recognized their great powers in front of the portraits every day. To the greatest extent possible, similar incidents were prevented from happening in the future. Take it back, I often worship, there are surprises. Roha raised his eyebrows, waved and threw the portrait to the eel essence. He had already seen it just now. This eel essence is a female eel, but the shape does not change completely, leaving a huge fish head. And the goldfish essence on the side should be her husband. Even if it is not her husband, it is estimated that these two goods have a leg, otherwise this female eel's belly. It is impossible to have the young energy of this goldfish essence. Thank you Shengxian, thank you Shengxian. The female eel was full of surprise on her face, holding the picture scroll in both hands and bowing again and again. But she didn't know that from then on, she would embark on an endless road of conception, and after pregnancy, she gave birth to more than 500 litters in less than 1,000 years. There are more than 500 litters of all kinds: eel and goldfish mixed blood, eel squid mixed blood, eel carp mixed blood, eel and crab mixed blood, and were directly regarded as the surrogate goddess of the Jing River Basin. Countless begging for a child could not be obtained from the aquarium, so they came one after another and sent all kinds of heaven and earth treasures. Passing by the Zun Shuizu, Roha went straight towards the Jing Dragon Palace. He had long heard the Dragon Palace guard who patrolled the Shuizu before, and when he saw Roha, his body trembled. Facing the slaughtered son of the South Blue Dragon King and the 10,000 Shui clan, they were still safe and sound, and they were a little unsteady under their feet. Jing Shui clan, welcome to the immortal Fahia. Without any hesitation, the two scattered immortal realm Shui clan guarding the gate fell to their knees on the ground, and their weapons were respectfully put aside. Those who can come to guard the Dragon Palace are not stupid. Besides, they had received advice from the two leading generals earlier. At this time, they naturally knew what to do. They knelt on the ground and shouted in unison. The Dragon King of Jing, who was listening to his subordinates in the Dragon Palace, heard this shout and knew that a great man was coming. Impatiently kicked away the stammering Shui clan, who could be exhausted by listening to a single word. Admirals at the door were kicked by donkeys in their brains today. They sent someone to report, but they sent such a stammer. This is a test of whose patience. The title in the Dragon Palace, the Dragon King of Jing, has long been instructed, to be able to attract so many aquariums to bow down, first of all to determine the identity of the other party as extraordinary, it should be much higher than himself. Shengxian, representing the immortals of the upper realm, are people who are too powerful to provoke, and the latter is the more honorable title in the Dragon King's definition. The general immortals use the word, big car. In his heart, he was certain that the opponent's status was extraordinary, and the speed of the Jing Dragon King was also quite fast. He got off the dragon chair and walked quickly without any delay. The Jing Dragon King has 9 sons in total. Originally, the whole family was chatting in the Dragon Palace. Seeing the attitude of their father, combined with the chorus of shouts just now, their minds changed, and they all followed behind their father and went out to meet the unknown. The Celestial. Shengxian is here, Xiaolong has lost his way, please forgive me. Before seeing Roha's figure, the voice of the Jing Dragon King came from the Dragon Palace, accompanied by a large footsteps of tickets. Roja stood still on the avenue in front of the Dragon Palace, facing the direction of the main entrance of the Dragon Palace, with a hint of playfulness on his face. The Jing Dragon King saw his figure as soon as he walked out of the Dragon Palace, and his footsteps suddenly stopped. After such a fuss about the East Blue Dragon King, Roja is now in the rivers and lakes, and his reputation is not inferior to the Jade Emperor above the 9 heavens. The Jing Dragon King recognized him at a glance and swallowed hard. Spit, with a little panic in his expression. I think you shouldn't be very welcome in your heart. Roja raised his eyebrows, put his hands behind his back, and walked step by step towards the main entrance of the Dragon King Hall. Don't blame it on the immortals. Xiaolong was shattered by the demeanor of the immortals, and lost his sense for a while. The presence of the immortals is an honor of my Jing aquatic clan, and why would he not welcome him? The Jing Dragon King saw Roja stepping up, and he quickly nodded and bowed to meet him. His face was full of flattery, but the 9 dragons behind him were already trembling with fright, and stood frozen in place. A few evil obstacles. Don't hurry to salute to the immortal. Chapter 1200 level 9 Sendai. The Jing Dragon King saw his 9 sons who were scared and stupid, and scolded him with hatred. The Dragon King of South Blue was slaughtered and his son was slaughtered. He sued the heavenly court, and personally invited the great god of the 3 Tan Haihui and 2 of the 4 heavenly kings, and even brought 10,000 heavenly soldiers. If his son was slaughtered, it is estimated that he could only smash his teeth and swallow it alive. Wow, see the immortal. The elder brother who was the leader among the 9 sons was the first to react, and he quickly patted the 2 stunned brothers beside him, and respectfully bowed to Roja. The dragons pulled each other, and they all came back to their senses, and they dared to make the slightest mistake. After bowing, with a bit of palpitations and fear on their faces, they bowed and stood on both sides of the gate. The Prince of South Blue, Ao Kai, was originally acquainted with them, and even after they met, they were flattered and clinging to him, and they slid at his banquet several times. In their eyes, the existence that no one dares to provoke is the slaughter of the grandfather in front of them. It would be strange if they were not afraid. Please. The Dragon King of Jing was relieved when he saw his son's retreat, and invited Roja to enter the Dragon Palace again and again. Yeah, Roja didn't have any ill will towards the Jing Dragon King at all, but he was just a poor victim of a powerful rivalry. His attitude towards him was at least quite interesting. The jade-faced fox, who you were, followed Roja lightly. After a trip by the Jinxia faction, she already had a preliminary understanding of the dignity of her master's identity. In her eyes, the practices of these aquariums were completely normal. Come here, serve fresh fruit spirit wine, and rare tea. The Dragon King of Jing instructed the maids beside him repeatedly, thinking that they were slow. Roja was noncommittal, walked into the Dragon King Hall in the main hall, and already saw the fairy treasure chest on the main seat. The Jing Dragon Palace is luxuriously decorated, and its treasures are not much worse than the Four Seas Dragon Palace. For tens of thousands of years, there are coral trees more than 10 meters long, which are much larger than those in the cave of the long-lived Fox King. Shangxian, please take your seat. The Dragon King of Jing respectfully invited Roja to sit on the only main seat in the Dragon King's palace, and he retreated to the side of the deputy seat. You can sit too. Roja didn't mean to be polite to the Jing Dragon King. He swung the back of his robe and sat on the Dragon King's throne that countless people could only look up to, and waved his hand to put away the fairy spirit on one side. Treasure chest. Thank you, Shangxian, for sitting. The Dragon King of Jing let out an apologetic smile, winked at the old turtle on the side in secret, and after a voice transmission from his divine sense, he sat upright with a flattering expression on his face. Its 9 dragon sons also walked into the hall afterward, without Roja's permission, but they didn't dare to sit down at all, but respectfully stood on both sides of the hall to accompany him. Hu Yuer stood beside Roja, looking at the Jing Dragon King and the servants who kept smiling, 9 dragon sons who were like servants, with a smile on her face. Her status as a maid seemed to be much more noble than them. Roja ignored the idle time of the Jing Dragon King and the gang of dragon sons. After the treasure chest was in hand, he ordered the system directly in his heart. The system opens the fairy treasure chest. Congratulations to the host for opening the fairy treasure chest and obtaining the 9th level Sendai. Level 9 Sendai. The qualifications of immortal practitioners can be measured. The first level can reach the realm of transformation, the second level can reach the scattered fairy, the third level true fairy, the fourth level Tai loose fairy, the fifth level Tai true fairy, the sixth level gold immortals, seventh order Deluo Jinxian, eighth order Hunyuan Deluo Daxian, and ninth order Hunyuan Wuji Luo Jinxian. Those who understand the way go up, the stairs are red light, and those who practice the way are blue light. Yo, nice, good stuff. Roha's eyes lit up, and there was a smile on his face. He was about to accept a few apprentices, and the system came up with such a thing. The aptitude of an immortal cultivator has always been a difficult thing to see through. Many times, such things as root bones, even Hunyuan Deluo Jinxian are unclear. Like the aptitude of Sun Wukong, if you ask him to cultivate the Taoist, he is a waste, and he can't reach the entry-level contemplative state, but if you let him practice the Tao, in just a few years, he can cultivate astonishing results. As for the aptitude of Sanqing, if you ask him to practice Taoism, it is estimated that he is half-hearted, and enlightened people, they will enter the realm of saints. When judging this, in addition to these, it is also linked to the soul, 3 souls and 7 souls, etc. It is really difficult to decide at a glance. Even Roha's Zhou Tianxing Xingtong can't completely see through it, but can only see it roughly. With this kind of thing, after accepting an apprentice, he can let go of his actions. When the aptitude is determined, let him go to the 9th level Sendai, at least the 6th level, and has the potential to become a golden immortal. In order for him to become his own disciple, or even a direct disciple, he must have the level of Deluo Jinxian above the 7th rank. Roha didn't think that in the end, the apprentices he taught were not as good as those of the Sanqing sect. No matter how he started, he could get a few Hunyuan Da Luo Jinxian. This kind of magic weapon, although it does not enter the level of Haotian Lingbao, is not even considered a top-quality magic weapon, but it has a special effect. I don't know if the saint can refine it. While Roha was thinking about it, the Dragon King of Jing had asked his subordinates to put all the precious fruits on the table. As soon as the wine arrived, Hu Yuer went to the front desk to fill it up. Shengxian's visit, Xiaolong is very honored, and I will do it here first as a respect. Jing Dragon King saw that the wine in the Roha cup had been poured, and quickly poured his own cup. After bending over to greet him, he raised his head. Take one sip. Yeah. Roha raised his eyebrows, Vivi nodded, and took a sip of the wine in the glass. Whether it was taste, or efficacy, it was more than a little worse than that of Jingxia School's Lingyun Immortal Brew, so he just took it. Set aside. Shengxian, I don't know what you are saying when you come this time. After drinking a glass of wine, the Jing Dragon King asked. He was full of doubts about the visit of the murderer Roha. I passed by chance. I heard that you have 9 sons, come in and have a look. Roha thought of the 9th level Sendai, in the system warehouse, raised his eyebrows, and said something. Under the eyes of Zhou Tianxing, the 9 sons of the Jing Dragon King showed their true forms. All of them were 3-clawed. Except for the youngest 9 sons, Xiao Tulong, the others were all pure-blooded dragons. Although the dragon family is limited by the power of heaven and earth, it is not easy to break through the realm of the pinnacle of the Tai True Immortal, but once it breaks through, the future is limitless. Just like in Buddhism, there are many dragons. After breaking through the golden pool of merit, most of them can go further, and among the 12 golden immortals, there is also the famous Wanglong Zhenren.